What is happening out there, Roto Scouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Friday show, gang. Back at it in the baseball streets here. Big 12-game slate to talk about. We're going to take a quick tour through it. We're going to do, our usual dive into or plunge into the slate, but we're going to try and do a little bit fast-paced. I just need the time. I got to be honest. Football is on us once again. We haven't done a main slate show yet. We're going to have one. It's going to be tomorrow sometime around noon. I'm thinking sometime around noon on Saturday works. Maybe it slides to like 2. At worst, if we end up doing like a 4-hour show, that still gets us out by like 6. But it's going to be tomorrow afternoon for the main slate, which means I've got a lot of writing to do for the groups, the optimizers, the game notes article, which I like to put a ton of detail into, but it takes a lot of time. I was up all night last night putting together the notes and the full file and updating all the projections and the rankings and the stack rankings, put together the initial cut of the groups and optimizers article. So you got all the different groups, the players, all that. The screenshots are in there of the first week 1 stats. If you want to check that out, that's a part of that feature as well. But writing those 20,000 words takes many hours. So we'll be doing that all night tonight. But stay tuned sometime tomorrow afternoon for a main slate football show. But for those reasons, we are going to try and get through this at a good clip, at a decent pace. Tiz saying socks, yanks, and beers for him tonight. I like that. Yeah, I'll definitely have socks, yanks on the TV, although I would say it the other way around. But yeah, looking forward to that one. The third game on our board there. Pretty solid totals on both sides. Yankees, one of the top-ranked stacks on the board. Definitely looking at some offense in both sides of that one, but capable pitching as well there. But let's just dive on in. We got a few people here. Not Alexa. I said let's. Did you say Abe Lincoln? Orioles at the Blue Jays. Sub-4 implied total for the Orioles. Interesting spot there. They're going up against Chris Bassett, a up and down kind of a pitcher who has been very sharp over his last 10 starts or so. 3 earned runs or fewer over that stretch. 2 earned runs or fewer in his last 4 starts. Gives you good quality, good depth. That's a gettable Orioles team. But I think that's a little bit of a back and forth there. And I wouldn't have been surprised had the Orioles come in slightly above 4 implied runs. On the other side of that one, Trevor Rogers. He has kept teams largely off the board all season long, pitching to a sub-2 ERA. Higher xFIP than that. It's a 3.44 xFIP. Still very good, though. 4.26 implied total for that excellent Blue Jays team. That is a interesting rubber meets the road kind of a spot for Trevor Rogers. I think that's a both-sided situation as well. A little bit less so with Martin Perez on the mound for the White Sox. Think we can maybe consider some Guardians bats, although they don't exactly rate out great with that low-quality lineup outside of Jose Ramirez, maybe a couple spots. 4.05 implied total for them. And then it's Tanner Bybee on the bump for Cleveland going up against a very gettable White Sox team. He looks fairly solid from the mid-range. Would consider. Tarek Skubal just leading the world, keeping the Marlins to a 3.01 implied total. Could see that slip below 3 before things are said and done. Skubal, just the picture of excellence, most of the time giving you 7. Very good innings, a lot of strikeouts, top of the board for a reason, projected into the 40s on FanDuel, into the mid-20s on DraftKings. Sandy Alcantara going the, let me take that again. Sandy Alcantara going the other way for the Marlins. Lean toward the Tigers a little bit, but Sandy has found his form recently. He's been pitching better. He's also been working deep into games again. 7 innings in 3 of his last 4, 6 innings last time out, but he gave up 4 home runs to the Phillies. Not a meltdown start, but not his best. But the 3 prior to that were very strong. So I think we can rely a little bit on Sandy maybe being back. It's just don't really need to tangle with that Tigers lineup on a big slate. Yanks again showing tons of power. Going up against Lucas Giolito. A lot of upside for Yankees bats at a 4.67 implied total. They're one of the top teams on the stacks board, but don't sleep on the Red Sox. 4.43 implied total for them in the home game. They're going up against Luis Gil, who is a talented pitcher, but walks too many, gives up a lot of opportunities, and the quality a little bit up and down in terms of what the strikeout numbers look like. So maybe not the best option DFS-wise for us, and a reason to consider some Red Sox bats with a little bonus scoring potential. The Rangers against the Mets. Low total in this one. Jacob deGrom's first career start against the Mets. If you believe in revenge, that's your spot. Although I don't know if he feels revenge in his heart for the Mets. Probably going to get a nice little ovation there. He's going up against their prized rookie, Jonah Tung, in his third major league start. First two, one good, one shaky. 4 earned runs in the second one. That was at Cincinnati. That came on only 3 hits, but he allowed 3 home runs in that game. He struck out 6, but walked 4. Not quite as good as the first start, which was against the Marlins. So we'll see what he's got against the gettable Rangers team here. I think he's at least in play. Both those teams coming in sub 4. Jaden Murray, just an opener for the Astros, going up against Hurston Waldrop, who has been fairly good for the Braves. I question if we've really got a realistic 6 from Waldrop against that fairly high-quality Astros team. I'm probably more interested in the bats on both sides of that one. Home run pick of the day comes from the Braves. Like the looks of them at a 4.63 implied total. And then from the Astros side, there's plenty of bats that we like getting to. It's just I have a decent amount of respect for Waldrop at this point. Kid's been very good in his first 6 major league starts and a high-end prospect. Diamondbacks at the Twins. Brandon Pfaadt going up against Pablo Lopez. Definitely interested in some Twins bats. 4.60 implied total going up against the up and down Brandon Pfaadt. When he's good, he can be very good. Mostly he's been bad this season. It wouldn't stun me if he had an okay day. I think there's maybe some usability on him against that Twins lineup, but they're pulling a nice total against and going to show some quality. And then Lopez, talented pitcher, keeping the Diamondbacks under a 4 implied total. It is another spot where, especially at the top end, I don't know that we need to take Pablo Lopez and use him to attack the Diamondbacks on a deep slate, but he's there, fairly priced. Andre Pelletier for the Cards going up against the Brewers. They're pulling a mid-4s implied total going the other way. High-quality lineup. Don't really see a lot of reason to go to Andre Pelletier outside of, maybe you pick off some cheap 6-inning, 2-run, low strikeout type performance. That's the upside when you go to him. Quinn Priester on the mound going the other way has given us some good starts throughout the season. Last 2 have been pretty dynamite. 7 innings against Pittsburgh last time out, 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts. Start before that one, 6 innings against Toronto. 3 strikeouts, no walk, 1 unearned run on 5 hits. It's a very good start. He's really only had 3 bumpy ones all year. It's been mostly pretty good over his 21 starts. 3.25 ERA, a 3.83 xFIP. Worthy of consideration against a middling Cardinals lineup. The Rockies, Tanner Gordon looking like a batting tee out there for the Padres at a 5.32 implied total to lead the entire slate. They're the top-ranked team, easy to get to. JP Sears going the other way, always an interesting proposition, but a low-end Rockies lineup should help him out. 3.30 implied total for an opposing team against JP Sears is very low. Speaks to the Rockies' general quality. But that said, Sears is all over the place a lot of the time, so not exactly reliable. The Reds and the Athletics, it's Brady Singer, it's Yusei Kikuchi. I'm sorry. Kikuchi's on the Angels. I scrolled down too far. I just said what came out. Did I have that screwed up? Wait, Sears. Yeah, Sears on the Padres. Singer. Did I just miss the Athletics pitcher in this? I think I did. It's JT Ginn going for the Athletics. I think I forgot to grab his game log, and that's what tripped me up when I scrolled down to Kikuchi. I'm glad I caught it before I rambled about it. JT Ginn for the Athletics, entirely attackable. 4.85 implied total on the other side for the Reds. That said, middle of the board kind of a lineup, not one we really get excited about outside of that total. There is opportunity there, but if they get popular because of the ballpark, because of the opposing pitcher, the run total, I don't love it. I think there's ways around it for sure. They're not exactly incredibly far removed from, say, 4.63 implied runs for the Braves. So I don't know that we get too excited about that one, depending on what the ownership looks like. And then Yusei Kikuchi going for the Angels against the Mariners. Pitcher-friendly park, ugly opponent on the other side for him to face. We know he can be very good. We know he can be very bad. The picture of a roller coaster type pitcher, 4.68 implied total on the Mariners. Just don't see the need really to go to Kikuchi here and attack that decent Mariners lineup. Luis Castillo on the other side, though, one of our top projected pitchers, pulled it together in his most recent start. Just one earned run over 6 innings, 4 hits, struck out 6. The earned run came on a solo homer against Atlanta. Several very ugly starts in a row prior to that one. Back on August 8th, he went 7 innings, 2 runs, 5 hits, struck out 5 against Tampa. In between a 6-run game, a 3-run game, and a pair of 5-run games. Limited innings. It has not been a good season for Luis Castillo. That is a high-octane Angels lineup on the other side. But with that, they burn a lot of fuel, let's say. They strike out quite a bit. So they can feed a big total toward Luis Castillo. We've seen worse pitchers than Luis Castillo with way less track record put up big scores against this Angels team. 3-4-2 implied total for them as well on the other side. Rounding things out, Dodgers-Giants, Yoshi Yamamoto against Justin Verlander. Quality options. Yamamoto pitching very deep into games over the last, throughout the season really, but especially through this second half. 8 2/3 of 1-run ball in his last one, struck out 10. I believe that was the one where he took a no-hitter to 2 outs in the 9th and then gave up a home run, right? And then didn't they go on to lose that game? The Diamondbacks, he pitched 7 innings in that game, 6 innings the game before, 7 innings the game before that one. So he's been on a roll of deep starts. Pitcher-friendly ballpark here in San Francisco. That lineup should help him out. 3.65 implied total. Really like the spot for Yamamoto. And Verlander's at least usable. He's gotten himself together over the last few starts as well. 6 innings of no runs, 3 hits against St. Louis last time out, 6 strikeouts. Struck out 10 but walked 4. Gave up 3 hits but no runs against the Orioles over 5 innings to start before that. Just 2 runs on 7 hits against the Cubs over 6. He's been rolling. It's kind of come back together a little bit. Dangerous opponent with the Dodgers in town. 4.43 implied total for them, or 4.44. Let's take a look at that pitching slate again. So, Skubal, easy top of the board, offset by several points, also offset by a pretty significant price margin. A lot closer to the field, though, with Yoshi at 10.6 and Skubal only at 11 on FanDuel. DraftKings doing you no favors, offsetting him by $2,000. That's a big difference. Good news, you got plenty of good options at cheap prices to use. Luis Castillo, most notably, 7,500. That pairing works fine. You're 19.5 for those two. With Castillo's upside for strikeout against that Angels team, even in a down season, that's a tremendous spot. The difficult pairing is obviously Skubal and Yamamoto. DeGrom at 95 probably fits a lot better with Yamamoto than he does with Skubal if you're going double pay up, but also obviously a standout SP1 on FanDuel at 9,800. You get a nice little discount from him to the top of the board there. Castillo's only 86 on FanDuel. Fire away with shares of him as well. Nothing safe about Castillo, and compared to those other in the top 4 there's much more safety in those other 3 guys, but there's a lot of upside for Luis Castillo at those prices. Jonathan, definitely a high danger spot here. I feel like DraftKings is much more correct with that 79. Just kid's 3rd start. 2nd one didn't go great. A lot of decent bats in that Rangers lineup still. I don't love the FanDuel price. I would play it. My hope would be that the ownership would stay low for it. Tanner Bybee at 78, 7,000 looks pretty terrific. As good as Luis Castillo looks for his price, a few spots higher, Tanner Bybee looks equal to the task at those prices and saves you even more money, especially on FanDuel. The difference between that 86 and 78 is probably pretty significant in a bad upgrade when you're already going cheap. Chris Bassett against the Orioles at 93.82, entirely playable. Probably a little less appealing than some of the other guys up there, though. 8,200 feels a lot better than 93 on FanDuel. That is more skippable. But again, I feel like that price, maybe it knocks his ownership down somewhat. Kikuchi, total wild card 79-72. Could go out there and give you 7 shutout innings and strike out 10. Could go out there and get completely detonated in the first 2 innings and be out of the game. Although they do tend to let him pitch a little bit even when things are going poorly. Pablo Lopez against the Diamondbacks, 94.88. I just don't love targeting that D-backs team. He's a couple points under projected compared to the other guys in that price range. And why do we really want to go after the Diamondbacks here on a deep slate? He's usable. If you build out 150 lineups, or even if you build 20, he should probably be in your portfolio somewhere for a few shares. But I don't think he's a priority. JT Ginn does have a little bit of quality to him. It's just that big ball, or that big hitter's ballpark, that bandbox. the minor league park that they're going to be playing in out in Sacramento working against them. And that's been the case all year long for pitchers in that park. So I don't love it, but 57 is uniquely cheap on DraftKings as far as like usable options here. Well, not completely unique because I do think Sandy a couple spots later at 6 is usable, but that's a higher danger spot probably going up against a better lineup between the Tigers and the Reds. In between, Quentin Priester at 84, 83 on a smaller slate with less appealing options, maybe. That's just okay. He's playable there, but not exactly a high ceiling by comparison to a lot of cheaper guys. He'll usable against the Red Sox, but I prefer bats on both sides of that game. He is very cheap on DraftKings at 68, though. There's a little upside there. Sandy, again, at the DraftKings price, sure. Absolutely in consideration, given the depth that he's shown, given the somewhat of a return to form late in the season here. It's taken him basically all year, but I think he's kind of maybe finding it again. So DraftKings has not noticed. I think you take advantage with that price. 85 on FanDuel, just in the blender of guys that don't necessarily have to be prioritized today. Trevor Rogers, very expensive for where he lands on the board. Totally usable down there, has pitched great all year long. It's just difficult to get him to project beyond that kind of a range, given who he is, given that opponent there. And I don't like it at that price. 87 on DraftKings is a more correct price, I think, for Trevor Rogers, considering that he's just overperformed his talent through the year. He's not a bad pitcher by any means. He's just overpriced for the opponent there. So 87 on DraftKings, usable, but not a priority in any way. 10-4 on FanDuel, I don't even really think is all that usable. Singer, high danger spot. 91 feels a little off on FanDuel high. 77 on DraftKings, okay. You could talk me into a few shares. Not a good spot, though. Brendan Pfaadt at 72, 62, skippable. Playable from there, too. Every now and then, but you're just playing with fire there, and you don't need to. There's just better options up the board. Even for popularity's sake, there's so many options. People are going to be spread out. It's not going to matter as much. Martin Perez, again, low quality against Cleveland there. I would probably stay away. JP Sears against Colorado, another wild card type. 69, 65, cheap enough to throw some darts at against that terrible Colorado lineup. Verlander against the Dodgers. You got a lot of cheap options on DraftKings today. 66, that's usable. It doesn't matter as much that it's a high-quality opponent. It's a usable form of Justin Verlander just on his own. And when you factor in that price, that makes it much easier to reach Tarek Skubal at the top of the board. And that goes for all the guys in the 6,000s. Waldrop, a little bit low for those prices at 25 points on the sub-12 projection, 97, 9,000. Excuse me. But has been good through the season, like I was saying. I just don't think we need Andre Palante from down there. And then Gordon's a hard no, and Jaden Murray's just an opener. This is a deep slate, though. If he was differently priced, he'd be much more playable. He's just okay down there. But basically everybody from Waldrop up is at least somewhat usable. Maybe not Martin Perez. I don't love Giolito at 9,000. 8,000 on DraftKings. Better, but still don't like it with all the offense the Yanks are showing. Yanks are giving great offense and great offense to some people, depending on where you stand on things. It's been an interesting week for the New York Yankees. Let's get into the game by game. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Quiet day in chat today. Bunch of people here hanging out. I don't know what just suddenly made me like sniffly sneezy. That's going to be annoying. So Trevor Rogers, to start things off, it's good starting point, 87, 10-4. Again, that FanDuel price is just way high. He's got a 1.51 ERA, spectacular. I'm very happy for him. Sub-1 whip is great. 23.8% strikeouts against 5.5% walks is good. Nothing wrong with it. 3.44 xFIP is revelatory about how he's actually pitching. Fantastic 12.4% swinging strike rate, but only a 28.1% CSW overall. Pretty fair amount of premium contact. Probably pretty damn lucky to be at a 0.82% home run rate. Sub 1% home runs despite a 46.7% hard hit rate, 89.1 miles an hour of exit velo. It's a 12.4 degree average launch. He had only a 6.2% barrel. So the combination hasn't been there, launch and exit velo, but both factors are there. It's just putting them together that he's managed to duck in between. But he is dancing between raindrops all season long. 87 on DraftKings to throw at this team with their 16.5% strikeout rate. 18% against lefties with all these righties in this lineup. A 111 WRC plus against left-handed pitching as an active roster this year. I just don't like it. On the other side, Bassett at 82.93, I think is the more usable of the two pitchers. Certainly more affordable. 22.6% strikeout, 7% walk. Not all that dissimilar than the strikeout to walk. Obviously, Rogers has been better. 3.97 ERA and 3.85 xFIP. The xFIP's separated by a quarter of a run, a little bit more. Puts more guys on base. He's more high danger, but he's facing the weaker of these two opponents, and he's got the Orioles sub 4. Keeps contact to a minimum, just 36% hard hits, 87.5 miles an hour of exit velo. Can give up home runs for sure. 316% home run rate is entirely real, but it's also not bad. And he's good at inducing weak and medium contact. And this team underperforms the quality of contact that they make all the time. So it's a good matchup for him. Top of the Orioles, if you're going in that direction, I do think they're playable. And again, if they had come in at a 4+ implied total, I wouldn't have been stunned here. 17 home runs, 16 stolen bases on the board for Jackson Holliday, a 102 WRC plus. Solid little season in his second year, really pulling it together, showing his quality. Jeremiah Jackson, over 135, has been good, 130 WRC plus. He's hit 5 home runs, a 194 ISO. He's been mashing the ball as far as premium contact goes. Definitely an interesting bat over there. Gunnar Henderson, solid premium contact all year long. The price is way down at 46.32. 16 home runs on the board, a 172 ISO is a dip from where we would expect him, but good for counting stats all season. Still has a 118 WRC plus with a 348 xWOB under the surface. Ryan Mountcastle is one of those guys who makes way better contact than the power he actually delivers. Outside of one very good season for power a few years ago, it's just never really come back through. He's on a good stretch over the last 2-3 weeks since coming off his most recent stint on the IL, but it totals out to 5 home runs, a 111 ISO, and 85 WRC plus for the season. He's a mixer. Dylan Beavers from the left side, solid 80 plate appearances so far, 154 WRC plus. Hasn't hit the ball for too many, hasn't produced too much in terms of extra base hits despite finding a few barrels. The 32.6% hard hit rate kind of betrays the barrel rate. He's found a few walks along the way to push that WRC plus up. So I would expect things to come down somewhat. But the xWOBA at 362 is very encouraging. He's been decent. Tyler O'Neill back in the lineup. Major source of power from the right side. That is an interesting bat. If you're going to the Orioles, don't sleep on Tyler O'Neill. It's been a bad season. He's been mostly injured all season long, but 8 home runs and 164 chances. The power's been there when he's been healthy. 224 ISO. Goes on ridiculous stretches of power. So that's a real interesting bat down lineup. So is Colton Cowser, 37-27. He's at 13 home runs this year and 310 plate appearances. Been admittedly bad. Too many strikeouts, not enough walks, but a lot of premium contact. Both of these guys. Solid power in the 6-7 spot. Sammy Basayo has not really delivered on his talent yet in the major leagues, but he's very young, ahead of schedule. Got to give him a minute. 73 mediocre plate appearances, a mixer at catcher at best right now. Manny Rivera at 26-21, a mixer at those infield positions. 119 okay plate appearances, but nothing special. Nothing, no real reason to dip that far down that lineup. Springer at 53-36, fully priced on both sides, but an excellent season. 391 on base, over 513 plate appearances. Tremendous. 411 xWOB under the surface, making great premium contact, creating runs 58% better than average by WRC plus. Leads into Davis Schneider, who has held up for premium contact pretty well, over 186 chances right now. 242 ISO, 11 home runs in the small sample. Not bad. Draws a lot of walks as well. Double-digit walks each of the last few years. 14% so far this year. It's an interesting option to have in the 2 spot because he's got a little pop in the bat. He's very cheap, and he does get on base. 355 on base this year so far. Hits ahead of Vladdy, Alejandro Kirk. Ernie Clement is kind of a mixer, but Vladdy's very interesting at 52-35, 23 home runs, a 193 ISO, 301, 393, 494 slash line. He's one of the best hitters in baseball. Low strikeout, high walk, 14%, 12-4 this year. Matches recent years. Kirk at just 37. The price has not budged. 289, 357, 418 this season, a 117 WRC plus. It's an excellent option where you have to play the catcher position. Mixer where you don't. He's very cheap for a quality bat in the cleanup role. Clement at the low price, 276, 312, 398 slash line. More contact-oriented hitter, but part of their low strikeout equation. Look at this run of low strikeout through here. It's ridiculous. The only person in this lineup who strikes out is Davis Schneider, and he draws a ton of walks. Ty France, mediocre season, but 265, 330, 372. Part of the team formula here, getting on base, be low strikeout, put the ball in play, hit it hard if you can. 8% barrel, 44% hard hit is not bad. IKF, not much of a bat, but he is low strikeout, put the ball in play. He's succeeding a little bit via BABIP. He's found a few stolen bases. He's just a mixer, though, and I don't like the third base positioning. I would want him at second if I got him. Miles Straw is a kind of similarly light hitter, low strikeout, medium walk rate, has some speed, success via BABIP, success via correlated scoring, and you could throw Andres Jimenez into that pile as well a little bit. He has found 7 home runs in 323 plate appearances, but just a 100 ISO and nothing for contact over the last 3 seasons. So not a lot of faith down lineup with this team. I would say the cut for realistic Blue Jays is Ty France. And then if you get one of these 3 at the bottom, that's fine, but you don't really want IKF that much. I would probably take the second baseman or the outfielder on DraftKings. FanDuel, it's a little bit more debatable with the mixed positions, but a pretty weak bottom third there. You really only want one of those guys. Blue Jays bats, Chris Bassett, Trevor Rogers, Orioles, but all 4 things easily on the board. Rogers, it's mostly about those prices. Just skip that White Sox game entirely. This is an ugly one, I gotta say. I do like Tanner Bybee here, 7,000, 7,800. Hasn't been good through the season, a 4.69 ERA, 4.39 xFIP, not exactly where we would expect him, but a more talented guy than that. We've seen him pitch better. Where the hell is he? Last time out, 6 2/3 of 2-run ball. Struck out just 3 and walked 1. That was against Tampa Bay. Better team than this one. 6 1/3 of 4-run ball. Struck out 4, walked 2 against the Mariners. Better team. 6 innings of 5-run ball against the Rays again. 3 strikeouts and 3 walks. Gave up 2 home runs in that game. That was ugly. It's been a bad stretch. That 2-run game over against Tampa Bay, the most recent one, was his best outing in those 5. Had a 2-run game over 5 2/3 against Miami. It's good against Florida teams. 7 innings, but 3 runs allowed all the way back on July 21st. Hasn't gotten through a start clean since May 22nd. 7 innings of 3 hit, no runs, 8 strikeout, and a walk against Detroit, of all teams. But the strikeout upside is there. The opponent is weak. The 3.53 implied total is encouraging. Has reasonable upside to find a few strikeouts against this team. 23.4% strikeout rate overall for the season. He's been weak for strikeout this year, but just last year, 26.3% strikeout, had a better swinging strike rate by 2 and change points the year before, 24.1% strikeout. So we know that there's more here for Tanner Bybee, and he's priced down for the struggles this year pretty significantly. On the other side, Martin Perez at 64 at 83, 21% strikeouts against nearly 10% walks, 3.15 ERA. All right, sure, but a 4.90 xFIP is the real number with Perez. Look at the premium contact he's allowed. You don't want any part of this. Guardians bats definitely in play at their 4.05 implied total, but it's a low-end lineup. You do have Jose Ramirez, a superstar in the heart of it, which helps things. You've got a capable Stephen Kwan up top, 43-29. Don't worry about the lefty-lefty against the pitcher like Perez. With a hitter like him, he'll just put the ball in play. Low strikeout, very low walk. So you're just looking to succeed for correlated scoring and BABIP with Kwan. Ana Martinez in the 2 spot from the right side can generate a little bit of power against the lefty, but has done very, very little to deserve any faith here. 439, pretty bad plate appearances at 225, 264, 355 with a 71 WRC plus. They continue to roll him out in that spot. David Fry, another righty who can find some power against the lefty. Very cheap with catcher eligibility on DK, makes him interesting. 36% strikeouts on the season, 6.3% walks is problematic, 7 home runs in 144 plate appearances, a 188 ISO, and power over similarly small stretches in the past is what keeps him on the board and keeps him interesting. Kyle Manzardo, we picked off for home run the other day, is 26, 235 ISO, 121 WRC plus. Just one of their better bats. I would take him here if I was taking Guardian shares. But considering the lefty of it, what's he done in lefty? Let's see. Yeah, 5 of his home runs in just 78 plate appearances. So found some power against lefties. A 271 ISO lefty. But 186, 256, 457, slash line 93 WRC plus. So I do think you can throw him into the mix if you're just considering him a shot at a home run ball. 2,800 is very cheap on FanDuel. 5,000 on DraftKings, he is not. Gabriel Arias is cheap for a guy who puts the bat on ball pretty squarely from the right side. He's found 10 home runs in 408 plate appearances, a 140 ISO, pretty disappointing output, but always makes good contact. Jonkensi Noel hit a bunch of home runs in a small stretch last year. This year, just 3 in 132 plate appearances. Way sub Mendoza. He's below a 200 on base at 159. He's got a 1 WRC plus. He has been 99% worse than the average player at creating runs this year. He's the dead min price. He hit 13 home runs in 198 plate appearances with a 268 ISO as a rookie last season. Big right-handed bat there. Big Christmas is his nickname. Brian Rocchio makes a match for defense. Austin Hedge is not much of a bat at the catcher spot. On the White Sox side, I do think you can throw them at Tanner Bybee here. They're a low-end option. They're at a low total, but they've been frisky enough. They do have some interesting bats, especially up toward the top. Mike Tauchman is a good table setter with that 363 on base. Every now and then can contribute just individually. Kyle Teal, Lenyn Sosa, and Colson Montgomery have all hit the ball hard all year long. Solid barrel rates approaching 10 for the first two, 13.7 in the small sample for Montgomery. He's at 18 home runs with a 307 ISO over 224 plate appearances. Sosa's got 20 on the board, 101 WRC plus, but just a 171 ISO. Teal gets on base like crazy too, 391 on base. That's a very good combination up at the top with how much those guys can get on, because these guys don't. These guys are mediocre at it. So you need these guys to have the opportunity to drive those guys in. So it's a good setup here for what they're looking to do. But those are easily your top 4 priorities, and then we really, really slip. Miguel Vargas is just okay. If that, 14 home runs, a 169 ISO. He's dead at league average, 100 WRC plus. Benintendi's been interesting again, climbed back up to a 105 WRC plus. He's up to 19 home runs. He's found a little bit of power this year, consistently barreling the ball. He does have an 11% barrel. It's just doubling what he's done in the past. Low strikeout, medium walk rate like he's always been. He's at best a mixer who's overperformed overall for the power output. But it's a lefty bat to throw at Tanner Bybee in the middle of this lineup for a fair price. You're not paying any kind of tax on Benintendi here, so it's fine. Brooks Baldwin, 31-24, meh in the infield. Chase Meadroth has the better hit tool between those two players. They fill similar positions. Well, on DraftKings, they're different. On FanDuel, they fill similar positions. Between the two on DK, I'd pay the extra $200 and get to Meadroth at second base more often than not. And then Will Robertson, a mixer from the left side, 44 pretty weak plate appearances so far. Will Robertson in the minors, 20 home runs in 354 plate appearances with a 282 ISO this year, 147 WRC plus. So he's hit for a lot of power this year, found some power through the minors the last couple of seasons, but he's also 27 years old now, so little aged up. But on the White Sox, that might be okay. He's very, very cheap here. If you're choosing to attack Tanner Bybee, which again is doable considering how poorly he's pitched throughout most of the season, maybe you include some Will Robertson down there. Not a completely terrible option. I would still say this goes for me, probably Tanner Bybee at those cheap prices, Guardians bats, White Sox bats, and wouldn't really consider Martin Perez on this slate. Swoosh Bangs here, sweating some parlays for the Cubs game. Need 2 bases from Diaz on one and a stolen base from PCA on another. All right. I think we could get there with those. Not crazy. PCA really just needs to find his way on base for you. That on base number for him has slipped badly over the last month and change. Sub 300 now, if memory serves, or thereabout. Tigers, 408 implied total with Tarek Skubal on the mound. Marlins, 301 implied total with Sandy Alcantara on the mound going back the other way. Alcantara, 18.5% strikeouts, 5.67 ERA, but a 4.32 xFIP, has been finding form lately, has been pitching deeper into games. And as we know with Sandy, that's the key. He needs that seventh inning to really find peak form. But once upon a time, when he was consistently going 7+ plus, he was a dynamite option for DFS because he would compile strikeouts along the way. He's facing a team that he can find those Ks against today. 23.9% strikeout rate for this Tigers team for the season. So it's an interesting spot for Sandy. 6,000, 8,500, especially at that DraftKings price. If you're throwing darts at cheapo pitchers, that is a very talented young man that you've got to work with there. 108 mark by Stuff Plus, sub 3% home run rate, keeps launch angles under 10 degrees for the season, even in a bad year. Last time out, 6 innings of 4-run ball, as mentioned. That one was against the Phillies. That was his bumpiest start in his last 6. Prior to that, his last 5. Prior to that, it was 4 straight where he gave up 1 earned run in 3 of them and 2 earned runs in the other one. Struck out 6, 7, 9, and 7 against the Mets, the Braves, the Cards, and at Fenway Park. Not bad. That is a good stretch. That is Sandy Alcantara finding form. So kind of interested, especially over here. That is a very, very cheap price. It's a good Tigers lineup, but a 408 implied total is not exactly rocketing to the moon. And then Tarek Skubal, just the best pitcher in baseball. No reason not to throw him at the worst lineup in baseball, or one of the worst lineups. Apologies to the Marlins. They've been better than that. But yeah, this is a incredibly gettable spot. Skubal, 12,000, but it doesn't really matter because of how cheap everyone else is on that DraftKings board. So yeah, that's a big difference between him and the next highest pitcher over there. It's 2,000. But again, you can pair him with Sandy on the other side of this game for 18. It's easy enough. 11 on FanDuel, totally worthwhile. Tigers bats definitely playable against Sandy. If he slips off the recent form back to who he was through most of this season in his return from injury, then sure, you can get to him. Tigers have a ton of power. They've also got a loaded lineup with lefties here. Parker Meadows has been good in his return. Big game the other day. 229, 303, 357 overall this season, and 86 WRC plus, but 4 home runs and 155 plate appearances. Joker's apparently excited about the Parker Meadows play, so you take that for what it's worth. Gleyber Torres in the 2 spot at 44.32, super low strikeout, high walk rate, 15%, 13.9, 15 home runs on the board, a 117 WRC plus, getting on at a 365 clip via base. Gleyber's fantastic. Kerry Carpenter, Riley Green, 2 solid lefties with tons and tons of premium contact and power. 24 and 33 home runs in 421 and 596 plate appearances, mid 200s ISOs, 118, 126 WRC plus. Nothing to think about. You throw those lefties at Sandy if you're choosing to go after him here. Spencer Torkelson's always also in the must play list if you're going to Tigers. When we say must play, it's if you build 12 stacks of Tigers. It's not necessarily 12 of 12, but it's something between 8 and 10. Spencer Torkelson is 43-33. He's hit 28 home runs this year. He's got a 220 ISO. He does go up and down a little bit as far as the consistency goes. Not the best hitter in terms of average, but monster power, monster premium contact, and draws walks this year. 11% walk rate this year, up from 8.7 last year, 9.8 the year before. Colt Keith having a strong year from the left side, 13 home runs, a 161 ISO, a 107 WRC plus, very interesting 352 xWOB under the surface, excellent premium contact marks. That's a really worthwhile bat at 3,800 at third base, 2,800 across 3 positions on FanDuel. Avi Baez at 31.26 is a mixer, 11 home runs. It was a nice first half. It was a nice story for a minute, but that's about all it's been. He's affordable. He's cheap down lineup, but I'd rather have Zach McKinstry at a higher price, 41,300, 11 home runs, 19 steals at 342 on base, a 118 WRC plus. That is a difference between a guy who is 18 points above versus 13 points below average as far as a run creator. It's kind of a no-brainer. And then Jake Rogers has a little pop in the bat, 10% barrel, 42.5% hard hits. It's only resulted in 3 home runs in his 131 plate appearances, but we know there's a little thunder there. Last year, 10 home runs in 337 chances. The year before, 21 in 365. So there is a little bit of pop there, but it's in an ideal spot in the lineup and a good pitcher on the mound. On the Marlins side, if you're going after Tarek Skubal, it's probably a little misguided today. It's going to be crazy popular. It's contrarian, but it feels like contrarian for contrarianism's sake. Xavier Edwards would be a good starting point, 46.28. He's very cheap, hits for average, gets on base, finds a bonus scoring via the stolen base from time to time, but he hasn't been running as much this year. 24 stolen bases on the season. Last year, he stole 31 in 303 plate appearances. This year, he's made 578 plate appearances. For a while through the season, he was really scuffling. He was out of the lineup a couple days just last week, but has pulled together an okay year and a key part of their scoring mechanism here. Agustin Ramirez at 42,300 has the best home run mark on this team at 7.52, 19 on the year, but Tarek Skubal's only giving up a 2.20% home run rate. Not a great spot for Ramirez. Jacob Marcy has been strong, over 165 plate appearances, 340, 406, 578. I continue to think that he's not actually just secretly the best player in baseball, and we're just now seeing it. But it's been a very nice debut. He's entirely playable if you're choosing to go to this team. Do you really want to pay $4,800, $3,300 for that guy against Tarek Skubal? Lefty? I sure don't. Otto Lopez, okay season, 14 homers, 13 steals, good for counting stats from the middle of the lineup. Doesn't make a ton of premium contact, kind of miscast in the cleanup role, but there he is. Eddie Berto at 35.27, totally playable, 7 home runs, a 147 ISO, 102 WRC plus, but just another mixer on this team if you're going to it in the outfield. And again, Tarek Skubal's on the mound. Eric Wagaman, Joey Wiemer, Maximo Acosta, and Javier Sanoa down lineup. Sanoa's up to 5 home runs. Been sneaky with the power a little bit, but that comes in 305 plate appearances with a 141 ISO and continues to just not make good contact. So a little bit of situational power output there. Acosta over 52 plate appearances has hit 3 home runs with a 213 ISO. We'll see what that turns into. Thus far, he's made very good contact, but limited number of batted ball events. And Joey Wiemer has made very good contact as well in a similar sample of batted ball events, but we know for sure that Joey Wiemer is not that hitter. 26-22, he's a mixer. So are the other guys at their cheap prices. But again, we don't really want to look to attack Tarek Skubal, even though they're contrarian and low owned. I'm looking for a better lineup if I'm going to go after this pitcher. Skubal, Tigers, Sandy. Actually, no. Sorry. Sandy's too cheap for that. Skubal, Sandy on DraftKings, Tigers, Sandy on FanDuel, Marlins. And the Marlins are basically off that board. Yankees lineup is in. So they're looking pretty tremendous again with this ridiculous lineup that they roll out day after day. It just kind of bends DFS projections. Monster numbers in the home run model. 5 guys in this lineup above the magic number, including Aaron Judge approaching double the magic number against Lucas Giolito, who's allowed a 9.2% barrel, 40.5% hard hit, 90.2 miles an hour of exit velo. Both of these are over our threshold for emergencies as far as contact goes. Barrel's just under, but it's a pretty significant fly ball trajectory. Relatively homer-friendly park, especially for some big righties. So I like the Yankees home run upside. 2.94% home run rate hasn't been tragic by Giolito. He's pitched to a 3.38 ERA on the season, but a 4.47 xFIP under the surface. He's walked 8.5% while striking out fewer than 20%. Doesn't have much in terms of swinging strike, CSW, so not a lot of meat on the bone for using Giolito against the Yankees when they're pulling this kind of run total. Just let Vegas do that work for you. He's not cheap enough. Just falls by the wayside with all the extreme cheap and extreme expense options on DraftKings. On FanDuel at 9, just in the blender of guys from the lower middle. Don't really like that spot. That said, wouldn't surprise me at all if Lucas Giolito went out, had a decent day against the Yankees. They are that kind of team. We see it time after time. They strike out at this lineup 25%, 24-9. They draw a ton of walks, which they should be able to exploit Lucas Giolito's downside, and he hasn't been finding strikeouts this year. But they can feed strikeout to you. So again, he's on the board for that. And the 8,000 obviously on DraftKings works better. But he's in no way a priority. Luis Gil at just 68. I'd rather, with so many $6,000 pitchers being viable on DraftKings today, I'd probably look in a different direction. He's loosely playable, but over 7 starts, he's walked nearly 15% against a 19.5% strikeout rate. It just hasn't been the same as it was last year. And even last year, at least the 12-1 came against the 26.8% strikeout rate. He induced an 11.7% swinging strike rate. This year, that number is 9.3. You can see how Stuff Plus is down by 8 and change points while still being slightly above average. 3.31 ERA, but a 5.57 xFIP. Last year's xFIP was higher than the ERA by nearly a run, and the walks were super concerning. But he pitched through it. He pitched through a little bit of premium contact on a fly ball trajectory as well. So far, he's done that part. Just a 1.30% home run rate, but it comes with a lot of exit velo, a lot of danger on well-hit fly balls there. So I don't know that I have the faith to go to Luis Gil here, especially not on FanDuel at 88. On DraftKings, I don't think he's anything more than a dart in your quiver at 68. Does pull a little projection. There are some strikeouts for him to go find, and if he finds form, he is a talented pitcher. The model's got a long memory about that. Last time out, 6 innings, 3 hit, 1 run. Struck out just 1 and walked 4. That was against the Blue Jays. They're very low strikeout. Start before that one, 5 1/3 of 2-run ball. 4 hits. Struck out 7, walked 2. One of the 4 hits was a home run. Not a bad start. That was against the White Sox, though. 5 strikeouts, 4 walks against the Nats. 3 strikeouts, 5 walks against these Red Sox. 4 strikeouts, 3 walks against the Cards. You see the pattern forming here. Yankees bats, Trent Grisham up top, 45-34. 30 home runs, monster on base, a 130 WRC plus, ridiculous XWOB under the surface. Everybody on this team basically hits the ball extremely hard, except for Cody Bellinger, who doesn't particularly barrel the ball that much, although that number's up a decent chunk for him over the last few years. So is the hard hit rate. Strikeouts and walks are right around where they've been. Strikeouts are down a little bit. He's found 28 home runs on the season. He's stolen 11 bases. That's in spite of not making the contact that some of his fellows here have. Major source of premium contact up and down the lineup, though. Aaron Judge, 46 homers, a 347 ISO, a 195 WRC plus, just ridiculous. Tied with Joe DiMaggio now on the all-time Yankees list. That puts only 3 players ahead of him as far as home runs as a Yankee, and that's Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, and Mickey Mantle. Not bad company. I was looking at the list. It puts him also, his 361 home runs puts him in a tie for 89th all-time. Still only 28 guys, I want to say, with 500 plus. It's pretty rare. That is a 361 is a big total, even though it seems like, oh, wow, some people saying like, oh, it seems low for the Yankees. But it's funny, if you look at the all-time list, the 89 guys from the top, from Barry Bonds down to where Aaron Judge is right now, and you throw in the list of anybody who ever played for the Yankees, not just home runs, not just guys who not just the home runs they hit as a Yankee, but their career totals, you have to also add a ludicrous number of hitters to the list. How did it go? You have to also add, all these guys are still above Aaron Judge on the career home run list, is what I'm saying, and they've played for the Yankees. Paul Goldschmidt, Mark Teixeira, Alfonso Soriano, Andrew Jones, Carlos Beltran, Jason Giambi, Giancarlo Stanton, Jose Canseco, Gary Sheffield, Reggie Jackson, A-Rod, Babe, Mickey, and Gehrig. That's a ridiculous list of players with more home runs than 361, given how few hitters have hit that many more that have played for the Yankees. Just speaks to the lineups they've put together over the years. Anyway, Aaron Judge is good. Ben Rice is also really good. Monster barrel rate, monster hard hits, discerning hitter up at the plate, 9.8% walks against just 20% strikeouts for the power that he provides. He's a young hitter. Catcher eligible on both sides. Gotta love that. 233 ISO for Ben Rice for the season. I did not expect him to hold up nearly as well as he did this year. Already mentioned Belly, 48-34. Great pricing across the board for a guy who's constantly putting the ball in play. Hits it with authority, if not crazy barrel rates. Has a bunch of home runs, steals bases, creates runs. Excellent option in the heart of the lineup for a little bit of a discount by comparison. Giancarlo at just 5,000, 3,500 on FanDuel. I do not feel like is priced up enough. 20 home runs in 227 plate appearances, a 325 ISO. Hitting balls like the all-time generational home run hitter that he is. I don't know why he's quite so cheap, especially in this ballpark. Jazz Chisholm at 54-37. Love Jazzy, 28 home runs, 28 stolen bases, like both those players. 127 WRC plus for Jazz. Any given slate, tons of upside against this righty, tons of upside. Austin Wells at 3,800, 2,900, 21 home runs for him, a 231 ISO. Monster premium contact numbers for a cheap catcher who just hits home runs. It's a good option. Jose Caballero and Ryan McMahon down lineup. McMahon's a 3 true outcomes hitter with a little bit of power from the left side, a lot of premium contact, a lot of walks, but also a lot of strikeout. Jose Caballero giving you a little bit of strikeout this year, but also drawing a ton of walks. Doesn't make nearly the contact that McMahon does, but adds stolen bases to the equation. 45 on the season with a 335 on base. Interesting options for on base and capability individually from those bottom 2 spots in the Yankees lineup. A lot of flex as far as just moving pieces around the board with this team. On the Red Sox side, Jarren Duran, 5,000, 3,500, has 14 homers, 23 stolen bases, getting on at a solid clip of 111 WRC plus. You can definitely throw some Jarren Duran at this righty. Solid enough as far as the walk rate, but just putting well-struck balls in play is going to come into play against Luis Gil here. Really like the upside for Duran. 5,035 is not bad pricing. Alex Bregman has slipped a little bit in quality over the last couple of months. Since coming back really from the injury, hasn't been as good as his start to the season, but 49.36 is entirely reasonably priced, and he has had a good year if you look at the whole thing. Trevor Story, 48.36, 24 home runs, 28 stolen bases, 180 ISO, a 103 WRC plus. The ISO could climb a little bit, so could the walk rate. He'd look a little bit better, but that is a good season for DFS. That is a very good season of counting stats out of Trevor Story, and he's really affordable at shortstop against a gettable pitcher. Nathaniel Lowe has shown power throughout the season, 18 home runs. The average and the on base have really slipped into uncharted waters for him. He's usually better at those two things, but it's been a playable season for him. You've gotten a fair amount of quality. He's driven in a bunch of runs on the year. He's an interesting enough mixer at first base from the left side for 42, for 28. Yoshida at 35-27 is a mixer in the outfield. A lot of line drives out of him, low strikeout, low walk. Kind of an ideal hitter to throw at Luis Gil if you're just looking for contact. Carlos Narvaez has made good contact, cheap catcher with 13 home runs, a 177 ISO. He's playable. He's not a super high priority, but he's cheap. If you're going to the Red Sox, he should be a priority on DraftKings. David Hamilton steals bases. He's got 20 and 177 plate appearances, but doesn't get on base enough to really support the upside. Nate Eaton's just a spot filler. Ceddanne Rafael is interesting for counting stats, but wildly unreliable down the bottom of the lineup. For a while, he was getting on base at like a 320 something. He was really interesting. He was up above a 100 WRC plus, but has slipped somewhat. But these are the interesting things that he does. Got to do it. Apologies. Yankees bats. Red Sox bats. Luis Gil, but only barely. Lucas Giolito. And probably would just lean away from pitching in this one. I really don't see the need. Monty says, be careful fading Joker. His track record this season is impressive. Which Yankees outfielder do we want to fade? I assume that's a DK question because on FanDuel it's less of an issue because, well, for one, you've got the util spot, obviously, but you've also got the first base eligibility on Belly. I mean, it's a little bit of a less about a lefty. Actually, no. That's I'm wrong because presumably Judge is back in the outfield again. So I was going to say it would be Stanton, but I forgot that Judge has made his return to the outfield, so that's probably Stanton at DH. Let's see. Do we have that? Oh, no, it is Stanton in left field. So my answer would always be out of these guys who's most likely to lose a plate appearance toward the end of the game, but it would be more for defensive purposes. It would be Stanton. If they bring in a lefty, if they brought in a lefty to face Grisham, maybe he gets pinch hit. Cody, that's not an issue for. So I guess if you're looking at it from that lens, it's probably Grisham for the lefty matchup reason. But to me, the guy most likely to come out of the game out of those outfielders would unfortunately be Stanton, just because you want to protect him if you're up from stupid injury, running into the monster or whatever. And just he's not a very good defensive outfielder. But I don't consider that a real reason to fade Giancarlo Stanton. You certainly don't want to miss out on the 2 home runs he hits before coming out of the game. Rangers and the Mets. this lineup in here. So as mentioned, Jacob deGrom's first ever game against the New York Mets. Big day. I expect him to pitch well as he has throughout the season. I expect it to be a nice warm welcome for him. Nice round of applause. 27.9% strikeouts, 5.8% walks, 2.78 ERA, 3.26 xFIP. Maybe it's not peak deGrom, but it's pretty damn good. 14.5% swinging strikes, a .93 whip. It's been fantastic this year. Facing a really good Mets lineup. You know, you got to give them their credit, but a 3.81 implied total is very, very low for this team. It's a high danger spot, though. They score a lot of runs. They get a lot of guys on base. They've got some power up and down the lineup. They can steal some bases. So deGrom not entirely safe. That's why he's under 10,000. 95, 98 feels pretty good as far as the pricing goes. Jonah Tong, 79 on DraftKings. Totally fair. I like that price against a up and down Rangers lineup that he can definitely get to here. 3.77 implied total speaks to the quality of the rookie. 9,200 on FanDuel feels a little bit aggressive. 4.09 ERA, a 3.86 xFIP over 2 starts, 26.1% strikeouts, but 8.7% walk. Also allowed a 13.3% barrel rate so far, 6.52% home runs because he coughed up 3 long balls in his most recent start. That would be problematic if that happened today. 6 strikeouts, 4 walks in that one, 3 home runs, 4 earned runs on 3 hits. So all 4 runs came on the 3 home runs. But 4 walks is problematic. That was against Cincinnati in that bandbox at Cincinnati. So you can maybe forgive a little bit of the power, but he definitely allowed guys to square him up pretty well there. Good start against the Marlins in the first one, just 1 earned run, 4 runs total on 6 hits, but only 1 of them earned. 6 strikeouts, no walk. Again, at the DraftKings price, I'm somewhat interested, but there are a lot of cheaper or similarly priced options to work with on that slate. So you got to debate whether you really trust the rookie here, whether it really needs to, whether you really need to go to him. He is a high strikeout pitcher through the minors. He's a very interesting kid. But I don't know that we fully need to trust him on a deep, deep pitching slate. Rangers bats against, I don't know that that's necessarily a reason to get excited about going to them, though. There'd just be a contrarian option here. Josh Smith at 37.29, capable across multiple spots all year long on FanDuel. He plays every position. DraftKings, just a shortstop, but a fairly priced one. 9 home runs, 12 stolen bases, a solid on base, 101 WRC+. That's just Josh Smith doing Josh Smith things. Wyatt Langford hits the ball squarely, has all year, 21 home runs, 18 stolen bases, solid 341 on base, a 117 WRC+. Absolutely a priority at those prices at the top of the lineup here. Jock Peterson is definitely in my lineup if I'm playing Rangers against the rookie. That is a major source of lefty power to throw at this kid, especially if he's given up barrels like he did last time. 2,500, 2,800 could be a monster day for Jock if he's on and the kid is off. Jake Berger at 35.29, 16 homers on the season, 202 ISO. It's been really disappointing overall, but still ridiculous barrels at 14.4%, 49% hard hits. A lot of power in 339 plate appearances, 99 WRC+, a 346 xWOB under the surface. There's a lot to like there. 3,500, 2,900. He is very, very cheap. 8.83 in the home run model. Josh Young at 33.29, mixer. Was much better a couple years ago than he's been this year, 90 WRC+, but 13 home runs and 449 chances. Another guy who's been squaring the ball up throughout the season pretty effectively. Alejandro Osuna, just a mix and match guy, but one who's drawn a bunch of walks in his 129 plate appearances. With that, he's dramatically sub Mendoza. He's got 1 home run, a 63 WRC+. I don't think we need to go there, but that 358 xWOB under the surface of all that ugliness is at least encouraging. Jonah Heim, cheap catcher bat, hasn't really been good this year. 10 home runs is really what you're looking at there. Not a lot of output from him. Cody Freeman has decent numbers in the minors, a pair of home runs early in his career, over 70 plate appearances in the show so far, but just a mixer at a cheap price. And then Michael Hellman at 4,000, 2,600, mediocre over 62 plate appearances, but does have 5 home runs and 345 ISO over that stretch. So take some good with some bad there. 13% barrels seems a little lucky given the 30% hard hit, but low strikeout, medium walk rate so far. On the top of the Mets at their low total against an excellent pitcher. Just, again, feels like a stay away kind of a spot. Like, why do we really want to target deGrom here? But I will throw the Mets into the mix. At least you're getting a very aggressively good lineup and a bunch of good players to do it with. We're also mostly paying full prices for those guys. So there's a lot of balancing going on in that equation. I tend to lean toward deGrom pretty aggressively. Lindor, 56-36 would definitely be a part of that. 100 runs on the season, 26 homers, 29 stolen bases, a 122 WRC plus. Juan Soto, just one of the best players in baseball, 39 homers, 32 stolen bases, kind of out of nowhere, 400 on base, a 159 WRC plus, just ridiculous. Pete Alonso, 33 homers on the season, a 244 ISO. The pace cooled over the course of time, but still a tremendous season overall. Makes great contact, tons of power delivery. Brendan Nimmo, 46, 3,000 from the left side, has 22 home runs. He's stolen 12 bases. He's dipped a little bit in terms of the on base, in terms of the overall, the ISO, the overall power output, but a guy who still makes elite level contact in terms of the 50+% hard hit rate, not really striking out, draws a fair amount of walks. The walks are down year over year, but double-digit walk rates each of the last 2 years, still 8.2% this year. Mark Vientos made great contact all year long as well. He's also at 50.7% hard hits with a double-digit barrel, 17 home runs now in 417 chances, a 197 ISO. We're creeping up toward quality here with Vientos finally. 335 xWOBA. He's got a 106 WRC plus, 6 points above average. Jeff McNeil, slap hitter with a little bit of quality there on base at 350, 123 WRC plus. Mostly just a mixer, but fits into the right position, second base outfield for an inoffensive price. Brett Beatty's the more interesting guy down there, though. If I'm dipping down to this part of the Mets lineup, give me Beatty every time for a little bit cheaper, or not every time, but most of the time for a little bit cheaper on both. 16 home runs and 394 plate appearances, and his 16 are more realistic than those 12. 179 ISO versus a 180. I get it. McNeil's found a little slight bit amount of additional success for actually delivering extra base hits, but look at the difference in premium contact. It's a no-brainer. Brett Beatty is a better bat here for power than Jeff McNeil. Francisco Alvarez at 32-25, 7 home runs and 229 chances, getting on base at a solid clip at 332, drawing a double-digit walk rate so far this year, showing some quality. Excellent premium contact numbers in the small sample. And then Cedric Mullins, good for counting stats, always has been. Right there, that's not bad. 96 WRC plus and 296 xWOBA, but we just ignore that part of the board. Right there is where you want to look, kind of like Cedric Rafaela down the bottom of the lineup. Jacob deGrom. Jonathan on DraftKings. Rangers bats. Mets bats. Jonathan on FanDuel. I don't want to pay that 92 for him. 79 I'm fine with. OMG likes DeGrom. Think he'll be around 10 to 15% on. Like it. Yes, Anthony Taylor. To address Anthony Taylor's question, NFL show tomorrow. Yes, NFL show tomorrow for sure. It's going to happen. I'm thinking around noon. It will land somewhere for a start time between like noon and 2. I'm going to try for noon. Maybe we call it 1, split the difference. That was probably what a smart person would do. But I'm going to get it scheduled as the night goes on tonight. I'm going to just be writing the groups article and notes all night long again. But yeah, I want to have the show for sure this week. So figure middle of the afternoon tomorrow, somewhere around 12 noon, between 12 and 2 start time. Appreciate the question and the reminder. Also check out rotoscouts.com. MLB and NFL going on right now. NHL's right around the corner. I think they open up on October 12th, I want to say. Dude, the 12th or the 7th. I can't remember which of those 2 dates it is. For a moment, I got scared though. I just Googled, NHL schedule, and it was like, September 19th. I was like, it can't possibly start next week. There's no way, but it was just preseason, thankfully. A couple weeks of preseason. But that's right around the corner. That's included for your same under $1 a day on a weekly, monthly, or quarterly plan at RotoScouts. When NBA starts up a little later than that, that's also included. Fortunately, baseball will be done by then. But the chaos of NBA. NHL's honestly a little bit difficult to cover with changing line combinations and everything. A lot goes into it. Not a high cost on your end. So give a look over at rotoscouts.com. Consider a subscription. Houston Astros, 446 implied total. Atlanta Braves, 463 on the other side. I like this game for offense. Hurston Waldrop has been good in his brief career so far. A 1.33 ERA is sparkling, but a 3.85 xFIP, a 10% walk rate. Kind of problematic. Hasn't given up anything in terms of premium contact, though. Keeps the ball down very effectively. So could be a limiter as far as the upside for the Astros. You can see the slight impact that he's having on the home run model there. Only 5.67 to lead the team for Jordan Alvarez, and we know what I think of him as a hitter. he's getting his due here, and I think the Astros still look pretty good. Going the other way, Jaden Murray, just an opener. Don't think we have a declared Astros follower, bulk reliever. Not last I saw, anyway. Okay, CBS is now saying it might actually be blue balls. He's the guy that came down with the probables. AJ Blue Bow. I assume he just goes by blue balls. Just get him into the mix there. So if you knock the opener out. Oh, is he not in the right-handed? Had a feeling. So righty opener, righty follower. So you can see plenty of upside for the Braves in the home run model. Plenty of upside for them through projections, regardless of which of these two is on the mound. Just for our purposes, though, I've been using the opener through the day. So very similar numbers up and down for the Braves. Really like the looks of the lineup today. Again, the home run pick of the day comes out of the Braves. I like them a little bit better than the opposing Astros, but if we're considering Astros, let me see. We have the lineup is in. Carlos Correa, leadoff spot today. Like that. Yep. Zach Cole doesn't look like he made it onto either slate. We'll clean that up later on. If he's not there, it's not worth the effort right now. But Carlos Correa at 3,400, 2,900. Third base eligible on DraftKings. Shortstop still on FanDuel with third base eligibility. 13 home runs on the board. A 105 WRC+. It's been solid all season. Still hits the ball very hard. 46.6% hard hit. Sub 20% strikeout. That's an interesting bat. Jordan comes in with tons of with a very limited strikeout rate and tons of walks. 15.1 and 14.1. 6 home runs. A 163 ISO is a little bit light for him over 185 plate appearances. He's missed most of the season. He's carrying a 13% barrel, 51% hard hit, a 401 xWOBA. That is an elite bat. He's still only 4,400. He should be in every single lineup that you build that has one-offs in it on DraftKings. That price is just broken. It's stupid. It's incorrect to throw him into the mix against a rookie pitcher at that price. Jose Altuve at 41.32 is also very cheap. 24 home runs, 176 ISO, 110 WRC+. You can ask for a little bit more ISO out of him, but he's had a good year. It's very cheap at those prices. Second base on DraftKings totally works. Jesus Sanchez, 37.27 across sites. Another player we like. Makes excellent contact, low strikeout, medium walk rate, 13 home runs, 11 stolen bases. The numbers, they're okay. 101 WRC plus with 341 xWOB is intriguing. Speaks to the premium contact that he makes and always has made. That's an interesting lefty bat to throw at the rookie. But again, Waldrop has been successful so far, limiting barrels, inducing weak and medium contact, keeping the ball down. Victor Caratini, Christian Walker, two sources of power in the middle of the lineup. One's a switch hitter. You got 11 home runs out of the catcher. You got 22 out of the first baseman. 147 and 177 ISOs, I think, speaks to the actual difference in quality in terms of the premium contact they make, the true nature of their power. We've seen plenty more from Christian Walker over the years in 200-plus ISOs. It's a down season overall, but he has at least pulled together an okay home run total here down toward the end. Jake Myers, mix and match quality outfielder, having a good year. 301, 361, 392, 337 xWOB under the surface is better than average. 113 WRC plus, not a ton of power with that .092 ISO, putting a lot of balls in play, finding success that way. And then Mauricio Dubon down the bottom of the lineup, just kind of a spot filler, a mixer across positions. Jerkson Profar continues to be expensive. 49.38, just doesn't feel great. 130 WRC plus, has been good. No denying he's been good. Low strikeout, high walk, makes okay contact. 257, 353, 471, a 214 ISO, 13 home runs, 8 stolen bases, and under 300 plate appearances. You can't argue with the performance at all. But he's a little expensive for those numbers. Matty Olson, by comparison, 45, 33. 23 home runs and 650 chances. It's a better pace for Jerks and Profar, but I think we know for sure that Matt Olson's the better home run hitter between the two. 192 ISO on the season. Again, by comparison directly to Profar there, he's below that number. But again, we know that Matt Olson is a better power bat than that. Look at the difference in the premium contact numbers this year alone, even with those numbers for output. Ronald Acuna back where he belongs, third spot in the lineup, third, second, first, wherever they want him up there, but doesn't belong hitting seventh like he was the other day. 396 on base, 15 home runs and only 336 chances, a 211 ISO, a 146 WRC plus, and just one of the best category fillers in all of baseball. Drake Baldwin's a cheap catcher at just 39. He's hit 15 home runs, solid premium contact from the left side. Ozzie Albies, Michael Harris down lineup in the 5 and the 7 spots have kind of rescued their careers, or their seasons, maybe their careers. 16 and 14 stolen bases for Albies, 17 and 16 home runs and stolen bases for Michael Harris. In the middle, Ha-Seong Kim, another player who the last year plus has been really underperforming his actual talent levels. He's been okay. He's been a little bit in the mix with the Braves here. Not uninteresting at 31-26, but not a priority in the lineup either. But like everybody else from Baldwin down, entirely playable. Marcelo Ozuna, still a special player down lineup, 3,500, 2,900. It's been a down season, no doubt about it. 228, 355, 404. The on base is still spectacular. The premium contact is still intact. He's hit 20 home runs, but just a 176 ISO, problematic. Does still have a 115 WRC plus, though, which makes him interesting. Draws a 16% walk rate. At worst, he's a fantastic wraparound guy from down there for those prices. And then Nacho, putting the ball in play, mixed bag so far as finding success, but very cheap as a spot filler. This goes Braves bats, Astros bats. Hurston Waldrep would not play the Astros combination. Monty. Yeah, Monty was here when CBS completely froze the show the other day. I had to restart my computer. Forgot about that. Appreciate you, Anthony. Anthony's rocking the avatar and standings on his given site. Love it. Yeah, so come on back. Hopefully you guys can make it for the afternoon for the NFL show tomorrow. But if not, it'll be there for your consumption at some point over the 24 hours. I'll try and keep it as short as possible, but you know how that goes. Speaking of, we're only an hour 12. We're making decent time here. Diamondbacks 4 and plat total against Pablo Lopez. Pablo comes in with a 23.9% strikeout, a small walk rate, 2.84 ERA, 3.75 xFIP. Similar numbers to what he's done in years past. The xFIP's up a little bit compared to the last 2 seasons. Most of those other numbers right in line with expectation as far as Pablo. Just missed a lot of time this year. 12 starts. Last time out, went 6 in the return. That was against KC on the 5th. That was after not pitching since the beginning of June. So encouraging to just see him come out of the gate, 6 innings. 4 strikeouts, a walk, gave up a home run, but only 2 earned, 6 hits. I think you could see something like that or better, but it is a high-quality Diamondbacks lineup on the other side. With that, though, the bottom end of this lineup features a fair amount of strikeouts now, given the new mix of players they've had over the last month and change. So it is a gettable spot for Pablo. I just don't know that he's totally fairly priced. At 88, at 94, just kind of falls into the cracks between the couch cushions there. Sometimes you find some change down there and it pays off, but a lot of the times you just get your hand all dirty or something pokes you. 94, 88, just, I don't know. From there, with those prices, when you got a lot of cheapo options at similar projections, some guys above him at cheaper prices on both sites, and there's still the problem of Geraldo Perdomo, Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, to a lesser degree, Gabriel Moreno and Blaze Alexander. That's not a bad top 5 still. Brendan Pfaadt going the other way. Probably easier to skip, but maybe not entirely necessary to skip him, at least not at 62 on DraftKings. I would consider him part of the conversation. 5.18 ERA is completely terrible. He's got a sub 4 xFIP, 3.96 xFIP. Swinging strikes in CSW, nothing special there. 19.2% strikeout, also not special, but only walking 4.9. That's not bad. And as a ratio, that's not standout, but it's all right. Problem comes around the premium contact. 11% barrels on the season is just unsustainable. 45% hard hits, 90.8 miles an hour of exit velo on an 11.6 degree average launch. It's just problematic. It's only been a 3.27% home run rate overall. But when it goes bad, it goes bad. Last time out, 6 innings of quality against the Red Sox. You get this start, you are in business tonight against the Twins for that 6,200. Against a better Red Sox team, 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 earned run, 7 strikeout, no walk. Love it. Start before that, 4 1/3 of 4-run ball on 8 hits against the Dodgers at Los Angeles. Problematic. 2 2/3 against the Brewers in Milwaukee. Gave up 6 earned runs on 8 hits in the start before that one. 2 earned runs on 5 hits over 7, though, against the Guardians. Struck out 5, walked 1. That's an okay start, especially as cheap as he is. 6 innings of 4-run ball. That gets a little dicey. 8 hits, home run allowed, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks. Yeah, you don't really want that one, but that was a Coors Field. A couple decent starts prior to that one. A lot of bumps in the road along the way, but this is a pitcher who is talented. We've found success with him. Last season, he pitched to a 4.71 ERA, but a 3.58 xFIP. Found more strikeouts, similar walk rate, was a little better for premium contact, resulted in a similar home run rate. You can see how much Stuff Plus thought of his arsenal last year. Slipped a little bit in that regard, but nothing to say we can't find it again in an ongoing sense or for a night. Twins come in with a 21.3% strikeout rate for this version of the lineup. Let's see if we got the confirmed. I'm sure we do. Yeah, we do. Twins come in with a 21.3% strikeout rate for this version of the lineup. So there are some strikeouts there. That's bolstered by 16%, 12%, 18, and 17. The other guys, you're just averaging that group of 5 hitters. It's a 25.4% strikeout rate. We take out Trevor Larnach and get really unfair about it. Those 4 hitters are at 26.6. You can't take it. If we take everybody out, that one's at 29.8. Matty Wallner, lots and lots of power, a lot of strikeout, but also a high walk rate, 3 true outcomes type hitter. That's true of him. It's less true of Trevor Larnach because he doesn't strike out that much. He draws a fair amount of walks, but he doesn't hit the ball nearly as hard as Matt Wallner a couple spots later. They are different kind of hitters. Larnach has found more barrels in the past. This year, just a 7.5% barrel down from double digits the last 2 years. 16 home runs, a 153 ISO, but a decent hitter in the 3 spot, 256, 328, 409, creating runs at a 5% better than average clip. Austin Martin, decent enough mixer. 118 pretty good plate appearances so far this year, 121 WRC plus. Byron Buxton's a star by any measure in the leadoff role, 6,200, 4,100. You better be because you're paying full price for him. 31 homers, 22 stolen bases, a 293 ISO, a 143 WRC plus. It's been ridiculous when healthy this year, and he's been mostly healthy, knock on wood. Luke Keishel's been really good, 52-34. Rock solid slash line, 146 WRC plus, 4 home runs, 12 stolen bases in his 168 chances so far. Doesn't hit the ball particularly hard, but doesn't strike out, draws a fair amount of walks, puts the ball in play, and finds success for counting stats. Again, Wallner, tremendous power from the left side. That's an interesting combination of hitters right there. If we're clearing the bases up that way, we got Keishel back on base and Wallner clears them, or you lead it into this capable enough bottom end. Royce Lewis at 39, 3,000, part of the mix. 12 home runs, a 165 ISO. We're waiting for the quality to come around. 9.4% barrels kind of displays it. 41.3% hard hits from a guy who strikes out just 18.7 and walks 7.3. You're getting a lot of quality contact there. Eventually, that frequency of high-end contact does win out, or should. Brooks Lee, lower-end contact, 14 home runs, a 133 ISO, mix and match quality player. Cody Clemens is interesting, though. 11.2% barrel, 48% hard hits, 16 home runs on the year, a 215 ISO, and we just completely ignore everything else because it's not at all good. 336 XWOB is actually really encouraging. And then Johnny Pineda down the lineup, just a mix and match catcher. This has to go Twins bats, Pablo, Brandon Pfaadt, Diamondbacks bats. And it's really... Well, actually, no. Pfaadt's usable on FanDuel, too, at 72. When it goes right, he gets depth. That's the thing. In his good starts, you're regularly getting 6. and into the seventh several times, completed the seventh a couple times, completed the eighth once this year. Multiple 6-inning starts. It keeps him alive. Very high danger spot for sure. Twins are pulling a 4.6 implied total for a reason. But I think he's playable and nobody's going to go there. Have to be crazy to go there. Oh, we didn't actually talk about the Diamondbacks bats. So again, top 3, 2 stars and a star adjacent guy who gets on base like crazy and sets the table for his friends. This is the correct order for this lineup. I hate it when they do anything else. 132 WRC plus from Adaldo Perdomo while getting on at a 383 clip is outrageous. 25 home runs, 30 home runs from Marte and Corbin Carroll. And then Gabriel Moreno, as I mentioned, lesser extent as far as the nature of the player so far, but a talented kid who was once upon a time a very high-end prospect. Very cheap in the cleanup role at the catcher position where you have to play it on DraftKings is dynamite. 286, 343, 449, a 119 WRC plus across 248 plate appearances. Low strikeout, medium walk. That's a very good player. Blaze Alexander's made really good contact while he's been up. 211 plate appearances. 7 home runs, just a 180 ISO, but a 110 WRC plus. Getting on base a lot. Strikes out quite a bit, but gets on base and hits the ball hard. That makes him interesting. Jake McCarthy, just cheap in the outfield. Jordan Lawler is a talented player who has not really done much in his 47 plate appearances so far this year, but encouraging minor league numbers and dead min price, 2,200 on FanDuel. Alec Thomas, Tim Tawa, just dart throws from the bottom of the lineup here. So what did I say? Twins bats, Pablo, Brandon Pfaadt, Diamondbacks bats. I stand by that. Come on. Cards is in. Brewers is not. Hit the like button for the Cardinals getting their lineup in. Don't hit the dislike because the Brewers. That's not my fault. Hype the video. Got to keep remember to tell you guys to do that. Oh, the Brewers lineup came in. Look at that. They didn't want you to dislike the video after all. But hype the video now that the Brewers, and I'll put the Cardinals lineup where the Cardinals lineup goes and the Brewers lineup where the Brewers lineup goes if you do that. I don't know what hyping does, but I've been told that it promotes small channels like this one. So you can use the help. Really appreciate it. I like to think we're doing a lot around here. Andre Palante seems entirely unnecessary. 15.9% strikeout, 5.28 ERA. Does have a nice little 404 xFIP, which makes him a serviceable fifth starter in the show. Keeps the ball to a 1.1 degree launch angle. That is his major positive attribute. He does keep the ball down. He does check power. This year, 3.05% home runs. It's a little high for having that as such a distinguishable attribute. But you can see the impact he has on Brewers' power on the other side. Jackson Chourio leading the team at 5.22. Christian Yelich at a 5. Rhys Hoskins not in the lineup. He might have been a little bit higher, but would have been similarly clipped a little bit. On the other side, Quinn Priester's been doing the same thing. 3.6 degree average launch, a sub 3% home run rate on the year. 3.25 ERA with a 3.83 xFIP, 19% strikeout, 7.8% walk. That makes him slightly more interesting by comparison. 83, 84 would probably be the limit for what I would want to pay. And I wish it was a smaller slate to make Quinn Priester a little bit more appealing here. At worst, he's in the mix. At best, he's kind of floating up near the upper end of the mix. But he's not really a priority at those mid-board type prices. Again, I feel like it's just a day where we're high-low on the price board. But could get through this Cards team. 3.42 implied total. He's been more than good enough throughout the season. It's just the lowish strikeout rate, but he's found a couple decent strikeout totals as well. 6 last time out over 7 innings against the Pirates. 10 strikeout day over 6 innings against the Dodgers is a good one. And 11 strikeouts over 7 against the Rockies back in the end of June. So every now and then can break off a better start for K's. 23.2% rate to work with on the other side, but some appreciably low guys starting out. That first inning's a little rough for strikeout. Brendan Donovan, Ivan Herrera, and Alec Burleson all sub 20%. 2 of those guys sub 15%. 112, 131, and 118 WRC plus marks out of those guys. If you're going to the Cards, those are 3 of your priority bats. Cards are very cheap, but they're just meh. We haven't found a lot of success with the Cardinals this year. They don't have a ton of power. They steal the occasional base, but they don't really get on base at overly aggressive clips. There's just not that much to like in this lineup. Wilson Contreras, part of the mix, 4,000, 3,000, 20 home runs on the season to lead this group, but a 191 ISO, a 120 WRC plus, those are good numbers, but we expect more. I think we're back down the other end of the career, or at least starting to be, with Contreras and not doing catching anymore. Just problematic on DK. 13.8% barrel still for the season, though. 48.7% hard hit. Lars Nootbaar's hit the ball hard from the left side all season long. Seeing mixed results, though. 13 home runs and a 136 ISO don't really match 10% barrels, 50+% hard hits. Mason Wynn's just meh at shortstop and low price. You're just getting a mixer there, though. Nolan Gorman at 36.27 has 14 home runs. Very, very real power from the left side, but he's very inconsistent. Is drawing some walks this year, which keeps him interesting, but 31.9% strikeouts, 14 home runs, and a 178 ISO is not the power output that we need to match those strikeouts. So we're not really getting him where we need him to be, but it's an interesting player who I would prioritize if we're going to this lineup. You don't want to overrate what he's already, failed to do this year. Speaking of failed to do things this year, Jordan Walker, 10.4% barrel, 49.3% hard hit, that he has somehow turned into 215, 269, 305 with a .090 ISO and a 5 home run total, 277 xWOBA. It's baffling at this point. Kid's got a lot of talent. Hits the ball very, very hard. He's very cheap. Would still be in the mix for me if I'm building a bunch of cards lineups. And Jimmy Crooks at the dead min, throw him into the blender, I guess, at catcher. He's very, very cheap. He's hit a home run in 18 plate appearances. Good for him. Sal Frelick at the top of the Brewers, on base, correlated scoring option, steals some bases, has 10 home runs on the year, 41, 33,000, inoffensively priced to target Andre Pallante, and the kind of hitter that you can find success against this pitcher because he's not really reliant on the home run ball. We're just looking at him to get on base, and the Brewers are kind of an ideal team for that as well. Jackson Chourio does have plenty of power, 20 home runs, 18 stolen bases on the year, a 315 on base, 208 ISO, 120 WRC plus, pretty tremendous. He's cut strikeout below 20% this year. That was a concern on his way up. Last year it was only 21.1%. Everybody's just worried about the young hitter landing at this level, and he's improved on that number. Puts a ton of balls in play with authority. Bryce Turang has hit the ball exceptionally hard for him all season long. 289, 356, 445, just a 156 ISO, but he's up to 18 home runs. Goes with his 24 stolen bases, 125 WRC plus. He's been tremendous this year. Big part of their winning. William Contreras, the one who does still catch on the other side, 46-31 with catcher eligibility on both sites. 17 home runs, a 145 ISO, 117 WRC plus on the year. He's still good. Low strikeout, high walk, definitely part of the equation here for scoring for the Brewers, but I'd say a little bit lower priority than maybe some other catchers given the high price. Little lower priority for among the Brewers given that positioning. So it depends on what you're looking to do with your catcher spot, but always in play if you want a high-priced catcher from this lineup. Christian Yelich, 5,035, top priority in this lineup, 27 home runs, 16 stolen bases, excellent on base, 125 WRC plus. Collins at 42.28 is fairly priced for a guy's getting on a 370 clip this year, 127 WRC plus. Jake Bauers is cheap at 33.28. Jake Bauers is also now relief pitcher eligible per EMAC and a DM that he sent me on a lot of fantasy sites. He's made 5 relief appearances this year, so he is now a two-way player. 29.5% strikeout, but always draws some walks, capable of stealing a base. He's got 7 on the year and just 183 plate appearances, matches his home run total. Good for on base. Correlated scoring upside with individual contributions, 13.7% barrel, 46.1% hard hit this year. Don't sleep on Jake Bauers late in that lineup from the left side. Caleb Durbin, Joey Ortiz, one of these things is better than the other one. I don't know necessarily that Caleb Durbin is great, but he's better than Joey Ortiz. 329 on base, a 103 WRC plus versus the 277 and the 67 from the guy who's just in the lineup every day. Brewers bats, Quentin Priester. Cardinals bats, Andre Pallante. DeMorte scratch? I guess he did. He was in that first lineup, no? Yeah, scratched. Appreciate the heads up there. So we get Ilamado Vargas in that 2 spot for the D-backs. Yeah, that's a definite downgrade for the Diamondbacks, no doubt about it. Going from Ketel Marte to Ildemaro Vargas. Yeah, slight bump to Pablo, for sure. 88, 94, works a little bit better now. And yeah, I would consider going to a different team there, Don. For one, wasn't totally excited about the D-backs anyway. They were just okay. Pablo's a good pitcher on the mound there. And yeah, taking, if not their best bat, their second best bat out of the equation now, I think we knocked them down a peg for sure. So you can go a different direction there. If you're looking to stick with Arizona, I still stack the first 4 bats, or would you pick another team? If you're still sticking with them, let me actually get the Vargas in there so you can see the difference. All right, so Vargas is cheap, so he'll buy you that. Right? Maybe you get a pitcher upgrade out of it versus what you were going to pay for Ketel Marte, but this is not Ketel Marte. He has hit 3 home runs this year in 75 plate appearances. We got to give him that. Last year, he hit 1 in 303, so you got to give him a lot of credit for that big spike in power output. 4 in 286 a couple years ago, 4 in 222. I think you can see where I'm going with this. If you're choosing to stay there, I don't know necessarily that you would say, I want to go top 4. You said 4. Are you playing on FanDuel or DraftKings? Because that would make a difference here. Monty going with sounds like ChatGPT astrology take on on the pitching matchup there. Monty saying both Palante and Priester have life path number 9 with their September birthdays. Today is a life path day 3, ace deuce, in a 9-year. Expect strong pitching performances from both of these 9s. They also play in a sport where 9s are heavily relevant, as are 3s. 3 divides into 9 3 times. How about that? I don't know what kind of baseball book you're reading there, Monty, but hey, whatever works, right? Whatever gets us to the right place. Don is on DK. All right. So you're probably, if you're looking to stick, your path of least resistance would probably be, instead of playing 4, just sticking with 4 and playing Ildemaro Vargas, I would just chop it down to a 3-man on DK. But if you wanted to go expand it or keep 4, I would probably go from Ildemaro Vargas to maybe Blaze Alexander. Obviously, it depends on what you were doing at third base or in one of the outfield spots. Or if I was determined to fill second base, I would probably actually go all the way downboard to Jordan Lawler for the dead min at second base and do that. And it would probably become like 1, 3, 4, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then maybe you do take Blaze along for the ride, again, depending on what you're doing there. You said 4, so if you were looking for 4, maybe you do something like that, and your price is down under 4,000. You're still getting Perdomo, you're still getting Corbin Carroll and Gabriel Moreno up top, and Jordan Lawler is a high-quality young player. It's just we haven't seen him arrive in the show yet. In 300 plate appearances in AAA this season, 11 home runs, 20 stolen bases, a 251 ISO, a 313, 403, 564 slash line, and just 22 years old. So when I say Jordan Lawler can play, Jordan Lawler can play. So that is probably the more interesting bat, even though he's hitting 7th. What would have been really interesting would have been if they had moved Jordan Lawler up to the 2 spot, let Vargas hit where he belongs down in the 7 spot. They didn't do that for us. But yeah, maybe that's the direction I go. And if I am stretching out for Lawler, I probably want Blaze Alexander in between. Maybe it's Jake McCarthy, but Blaze is the better of those 2 guys. So like ideally, I think you would stretch back out for the 5-man and go like, those 3 Araldo up top and then Lawler, and you're still 3,800 a man. So that's a good 5-man from that lineup, even with Ketel Marte out. But overall, with no Marte, I'd probably choose not to attack Pablo Lopez. We did everything about this game, including the birth life month secrets. Everybody manifests success. Let's get to Rockies and Padres. No lineups in from this one. We do have the Reds and the Mariners from the later games. So Rockies, no reason, in my opinion, to talk about Tanner Gordon here. 6.60 ERA, a 4.45 xFIP, sub 17% strikeouts, tons of premium contact allowed. I think we just tee off with some Padres bats at a 5.32 implied total that leads the slate. Two guys above the magic number for home run quality. Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano right behind it in the 9s, and then a couple solid options down lineup. Like this Padres team a lot. Then JP Sears, 65-69, 19.5% strikeouts against 5.9% walks is not great, but it's okay. 5.01 ERA and a 4.86 xFIP on the other hand, not so much. Sub 9%, 8.5% swinging strike rate, 25.3% CSW, a 1.30 whip. He's given up a 5+% home run rate on the year. That comes with a lot of premium contact and a major fly ball trajectory. Just a lot working against JP Sears, but this is a pitcher-friendly park. He can, from time to time, break off interesting starts, and it's one of the most gettable lineups in baseball that he's facing. So I think we do absolutely have to consider JP Sears, especially at the 65 on DraftKings, makes him a relatively high priority SP2 that probably will get a little popular. 69 on FanDuel, probably not necessary, but maybe a dart you can throw if you're building a fair amount of lineups. Rockies bats against the erratic nature of JP Sears could get a little bit interesting. A lot of right-handed power in this lineup, for one thing. Tyler Freeman, not a power bat, but a guy who gets on base at a very solid 352 clip. He's got an 89 WRC plus, which kind of flies in the face of that quality. 323 XWOB, but doesn't really help us out. Low strikeout, medium walk rate, 40.7% hard hits. He is an interesting guy, and probably the exact kind of guy to defy what JP Sears wants to do on the mound. So would be a part of my mix at second base for those cheap prices. Hunter Goodman at catcher would be a priority, 43-32. You want to have the best power bat in this lineup with 30 home runs on the board to exploit the lefty who allows a fair amount of power. Jordan Beck at 35-28, 15 homers, 16 steals. Brenton Doyle, 14 homers, 16 steals. Both those guys interesting for power. Both those guys interesting for premium contact. Continue to think Brenton Doyle's the more interesting of the two, but Beck has been right there with him in terms of the output. Beck actually outpaces him in the home run model today, which is a change up from how it's been recently. But all year long, Doyle's been the guy making the more interesting contact, just finding a little bit less for it. 286 on base is also versus 329 is also part of the equation there. Ezequiel Tovar, 8 home runs in 330 plate appearances this year. Has cut strikeouts significantly, hit 26 home runs in 695 plate appearances, but also had the highest whiff rate on like every pitch in baseball last year. Kyle Karros, Kyle Farmer, Orlando Arcia, and Ryan Ritter. Pretty weak way to end this lineup. That is 4 relatively undesirable hitters. Kyle Farmer, we find occasional success for the odd long ball. He's hit 7 in 286 plate appearances, but really not much of a power bat, and never really has been. He's just a cheap option that fills a bunch of positions down lineup, so you could go to him for DFS, but there's no reliability for actual power output there. Karros, just a rookie, 233, 04, 300 over his first 112 plate appearances, hasn't exactly been special. High strikeout, 8.9% walk has come down a little bit so far on him. Orlando Arcia has been lost for the better part of 3 years now. Ryan Ritter has not shown us much over 172 plate appearances. So if you're going to Rockies, it's really about those top 5, and that's who everybody's going to play. Padres are way more interesting. It's a 8-man lineup, I'd say, depending on what we roll out here. Nando Tatis up top is super interesting all the time. 21 homers, 29 stolen bases of 363 on base, 127 WRC plus, has dipped a little bit in terms of some of those totals, but has still been outstanding this year. 18.4% strikeout, 13% walk, premium contact galore. Luis Arias puts the ball in play like crazy. We finally added second base back to the equation on DraftKings, which is dynamite for him. 4,200. He works a lot better when you put him at second, not first. 7 home runs, 11 stolen bases, a 101 WRC plus. A mixer. You know, nothing wrong with playing Luis Arias. He can contribute. He can have 3-4 hit days, score a couple of runs for you. He's just not a major individual contributor. Manny Machado is 51-35 for Manny, 23 home runs, 13 steals, a 121 WRC plus. The ISO continues to slip a little bit, 179. That's down from 200 plus over the earlier in the season, but he's shown a lot of quality all year long. That's one of the better bats in this lineup, 10.77 in the home run model. Ryan O'Hearn for 41-29 has 16 home runs, a 126 ISO, getting on base at a ridiculous 365 clip. It has been just this good for the last year plus, or 2 years plus now. Ramon Laureano having a great season with 23 home runs, a 240 ISO, a 147 WRC plus, and has shown very little in terms of signs of slowing down. He's been excellent from wire to wire, basically. Or 444 plate appearances since he started getting his regular chances. Jackson Merrill, not really holding up the bargain from his excellent season last year, but also hasn't been bad. 421 plate appearances, lost a little bit of quality to just finding it again after missing a little bit of time a couple times. 11 home runs on the board, a 170 ISO, but a very encouraging 357 xWOB under the surface, 12.2% barrels, still a 108 WRC plus, even with some scuffling. That's still a very interesting player. Jose Iglesias is probably the skippable guy here. Fills infield spots for a cheap price, but not much of a bat. 121 WRC plus from Jake Cronenworth, who's always on base with that 370 on base percentage. He's very interesting. Not a major source of individual contribution, but wrapping him around from down bottom with that 13.5% walk rate and the ability to reach first base makes him really interesting to set the table for Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado up top. And then Freddie Fermin can hit for average. He puts the ball in play. Low strikeout, medium walk rate from a very cheap catcher. Keeps him interesting. Definitely gets into probably more lineups than he deserves to just for that attribute. Padres bats. JP Sears, reluctantly. Rockies bats, and would not play Tanner Gordon. Monty says JP Sears will be a modern day Jamie Moyer. He'll somehow be the starting pitcher for the expansion team in Nashville in 2032. Reds 486 implied total. A's 525. This bandbox just feeding some offensive upside in this one. Brady Singer's been all right this year. 3.98 ERA, a 4.24 xFIP, 23% strikeouts against a 9% walk. An interesting pitcher. I just don't really want to attack this A's team with their power upside with a 5+ total and just this ballpark working against us. Really don't like that idea. On the other side, JT Ginn, 26.3% strikeout rate maybe makes him a little bit interesting. 4.95 ERA, but a 3.22 xFIP in his 13 starts. 11.6% swinging strike rate, a 29.4% CSW, but has given up a fair amount of barrels, hard hits, and exit velo, and a lot of home runs in the small sample. That said, those do come on just a 7.6 degree average launch. So if he can manage to keep the ball down against a not great home run hitting team, then maybe it gets interesting. I think he's more playable than Brady Singer on the other side, even though Singer's got the much higher price and is the more proven of the two pitchers and probably widely regarded as the better of the two pitchers. I think it works better the other way. The Vegas totals agree with that. 525 for the A's, 486 for the Reds. That's still a high total. I would rather have Reds bats probably than JT Ginn, but for the 57, that's probably worth finding out on DraftKings. Oh, right. I didn't grab his game log. Last time out, 5 innings of 1-run ball, struck out 5, walked 0 against the Angels. 5 earned runs over 6 against the Rangers. Bad day. 2 home runs, 7 strikeouts, though. 3 earned runs over 5 1/3 against Detroit, but struck out 8 in that one. If you get Ks out of him, it's probably going to come with a few runs, a little bit of damage, but he's cheap enough to make that work. If you're going to the Reds, TJ Friedl up top, gets on base at a fair clip. We do have this lineup. We have both of these, actually. Looks pretty standard on the Reds side so far. So Friedl, excellent for on-base table setting, but not a major source of individual contributions. What you want is him reaching first base ahead of Noelvi Marte, ahead of Ellie De La Cruz. Oh, actually, it's Gavin Lux in the 2 spot. So you do have that double table setter up top for the Reds today. Those two guys do a lot of similar things. Light hitting, good sources of on base. Gavin Lux has slipped below the average via WRC plus, but given the price difference between the two, if you need to get Gavin Lux a little bit cheaper than TJ Friedl, by all means, they're essentially the same guy. Friedl runs a little bit more, has hit more home runs, 115 ISO versus 101, and again, pretty weak in terms of the contact overall for both players. Lux strikes out a little bit more, so you can see why he's a little bit less expensive. What I don't want probably is both those guys. They're a little bit too similar for me. You can get there because they're top end of the lineup and they're supported by the actual offensive players that follow. but it's probably less than ideal to have both of those guys occupying 2 outfield spots on DK. Elliott, 53-38 is excellent. 19 home runs, 34 stolen bases. Fantastic on base. 107 WRC plus, maybe a little light versus expectations, but a 12.48 in the home run model in this ballpark. That is our best candidate from this team to go deep. 11% barrels on the season from Austin Hayes for 41-31, 15 home runs, a 200 ISO, 108 WRC plus, tremendous. Will Benson back in the lineup at 35-25, another strong source of left-handed power here. That's a good bat to throw at JT Ginn. 15.6% barrels and 55% hard hits in his tiny sample of plate appearances, 10 home runs, a 200 ISO, and we've seen big stretches of power from Will Benson in the past. Spencer Steer at 37-28 has 17 home runs. Mix and match quality overall, though, over 520 plate appearances this year. Brian Hayes continues to not capitalize on his strong hard hit rates, just does nothing really at the plate. And Matt McClain having a bad year, but okay for counting stats if we need a dart from the bottom of the lineup at second base for a cheap price. I think the A's is really where it's at here, though. A lot of quality for home runs. While nobody's popping above the 10 spot in the home run model, above the magic number, there's still a lot of upper end home run model numbers there. So I wouldn't sleep on the A's. 30 home runs apiece for Kurtz and Langoliers. Ridiculous output from Kurtz. 427 plate appearances, a 324 ISO, 175 WRC plus. Justifiably the most expensive player on the team at 59, 4,000, just right out of the shell. Fantastic. All-star caliber player. 52-36 for Langoliers is entirely fair. Strikeouts still below 20%. We're at 19-3. Brent Rooker has lowered his strikeout rate significantly year over year as well. 27 home runs, 220 ISO. Tremendous season for power, but down a little bit for him in terms of the actual output. Tyler Soderstrom has made great contact all year. 22 and change percent strikeouts against a fair walk rate. 24 home runs, a 199 ISO. A solid lefty to throw into the mix. Jacob Wilson, fantastic hit tool, 319, 361, 450. Continue to think we should probably promote him back up toward the top of the lineup ahead of the power, but he'll hold his own in the 5 spot and reset the table for Lawrence Butler, who's still got a little pop in that bat. He's hit 19 home runs, stolen 17, 97 WRC plus is not exactly where we want him. A little bit below average, but still making good contact through the season. It's gotten really cheap in your outfield. Hernandez, JJ Bleday, Zach Geloff down lineup. Geloff, pretty bad over 87 plate appearances this season, but good for counting stats last year. An interesting option for a very, very cheap price at second base. 14 home runs on the board out of JJ Bleday in an otherwise pretty lost season, but does have a 203 ISO, a mixer at worst. And then Hernandez is getting on base okay. 240, 317, 344, another mixer. Top 6, very strong. Any one of the bottom 3 on the A side, perfectly fine. A's bats, Reds bats, but JT Ginn over Brady Singer, especially given that price. Is Cronenworth showing as a righty? That's just cosmetic if it is. I'll get that corrected. Didn't realize that. Wonder where that's from. He's all the way up here from when this file was actually real. He's not even an addition. Now I have to actually remember which one of those columns is in mine where I edit. I just used the same handedness in both of the bat and throw spot because it just says column 30, column 31 up here, and I didn't want to have to remember which was which. Bats is AD. Lefty. Should be. I'll change the other one to lefty too. It's pulling the wrong one for some reason for him. That's the wrong game. See what you made me do? Still showing righty. Where the hell is that pulling from? I will track that down and get it changed for you, Monty. I'm not sure where that's pulling that incorrect right-handedness from. But again, it would just be cosmetic on this dashboard, so it's not crazy relevant, but I appreciate the note. Not relevant to the projection anyway. Relevant to what we're doing here, which is showing information about this baseball slate, though. So I do appreciate the note. That's something I hate when that happens. Maybe thinking about that like 3 months from now. I'll be like, remember that day when Jake Cronenworth was showing up as right-handed for some reason? Stupid shit like that gets to me. Do you say Kikuchi? Speaking of stupid shit to do today, Mariners pretty good lineup on the other side of this one. It is a pitcher-friendly park, but the M's are just good. They're a good run-scoring team. There's loads of power. They steal bases. They're pulling a 4.68 implied total. We do like going to Kikuchi from time to time just to be adventurous. Maybe it's the masochistic streak. Total roller coaster of the pitcher. You're getting away with a 23% strikeout rate, but a 9.7% walk, 4.18 ERA, and a 4.30 xFIP this season. For a while, that was a sub-3 ERA. He's been bad over a pretty recent stretch. A lot of power showing again. A lot of walks at 9.7%. I think we probably just stay away, which means cue the 7-inning, no-hit performance from Kikuchi. Castillo on the other side, 75.86, really interesting. 21.2% strikeout against 6.5% walks on the season. It's not bad as a ratio. It's just down for him in terms of what we expect his strikeout totals to look like. Comes with a still good 11.2% swinging strike rate. The 24.8% CSW you can definitely argue with. He's dipped in terms of stuff plus. He's given up a lot of premium contact and some home runs this year. It's resulted in a 3.85 ERA and again a 4.16 xFIP. Again, not exactly what we expect from this pitcher, but he's going up against a team with so many strikeouts available for him. It should be a good day for Castillo. There's a guy with 24.3% strikeouts last year, 27.3 the year before, 27.2 the year before that, and on and on and on. Maybe we're coming back down the other side of Talent Mountain here. It's been a minute with Luis Castillo, but I don't think he's shot. There's nothing really that would say that. A little bit of depreciation in some of his pitches, but more than enough to get through this Angel squad. With apologies to Mr. Rivero, that's a 26.7% strikeout rate. Tons of Ks. We have seen worse pitchers than Castillo succeed against this Angels team recently. Mariners lineup is in. Angels is not. If we're considering Angels against Luis Castillo, I do think they're on the board. You're seeing plenty of power through the middle of the model there, starting with Mike Trout at the top spot at 10.26. There are plenty of home runs here. They're a roller coaster team, kind of like their roller coaster pitcher, in terms of you get a lot of days of either monster power output or some zeros. Not an easy team to go to, but one of the more talented, probably lesser owned teams, given that low total, the fact that people are going to want to use Castillo at these prices. So I think that thrusts the Angels into consideration here. They're very affordable for that role. Mike Trout is Mike Trout, makes great contact up top, been stuck at 21 home runs for a minute, 191 ISO, 119 WRC plus, still excellent 363 xWOBA on his contact, still draws a 16.5% walk rate, even though strikeouts are up by 10 points year over year. Maybe he's not the same guy, but he's not priced like that old guy either, 42.33. Joe Moncada at 35.29 has hit the ball very squarely throughout the season. 263 really good plate appearances, one of the better stretches that we've ever seen from him. 229 ISO, 12 home runs, 126 WRC plus. Zach Neto with 26 homers, 26 stolen bases. Taylor Ward a couple spots later with 30 home runs. 235 ISO for him, a 217 ISO for Neto. And then our guy Joe Adell, 35 home runs, a 263 ISO. Suffering from vertigo, has been in lineups then scratched multiple times this week. It's starting to get annoying. Keep your eye on Joe Adell. If he's in the lineup, I think you go there. If he's not in the lineup, you obviously don't. Hopefully they don't announce and then remove him today. Luis Renifo, Ozzy Peraza, Sebastian Rivero, and Bryce Tadosio down lineup will feed the upside toward Luis Castillo. Not a one of those guys is much of a bat. Renifo is the guy you would want in that equation. 8 home runs, 10 steals, a sub 300 on base, a 75 WRC plus, and that's the guy I said you would want. Mariners, Randy Arozarena up top, 48-35, 27 homers, 28 steals, excellent on base. Star caliber season out of Randy, returned to form, major source of premium contact, 128 WRC plus. Hits ahead of Cal Raleigh while getting on base like that. 53 home runs on the board for Raleigh. We've talked about the dip in quality as far as the average, the on base over the last month or whatever, but still a major source of power, a 330 ISO. You don't really want to skip Cal Raleigh too frequently if you're going to the Mariners. Julio Rodriguez continues to mash. 30 home runs, 26 stolen bases, a 207 ISO. A ridiculous stretch since the All-Star break again this year. Eugenio Suarez for only 44.35 has 45 home runs and a 303 ISO. Jorge Polanco has 24 home runs, a 224 ISO, 128 WRC plus. Has been great all year long. 4,000, 3,000 at second base. Excellent option in the heart of this lineup. Mitch Garver against a lefty. Major source of power there from a cheap catcher, 2,900, 26 on FanDuel, where you can play him like he's their first baseman. He's hit 8 home runs in 266 chances, just a 133 ISO, but an interesting and, like him, 8.2% barrel, 46.5% hard hit, again, from a very cheap catcher. Victor Robles is interesting. Decent home run mark for him, for one thing. 283, 04, 333. He's yet to homer this year, but he's been interesting. 83 WRC plus, not great. 238 XWOA is downright concerning, but this is a player who was very, very good through last season for them when he came second half of last year. 34 stolen bases, 4 home runs, 307, 381, 433 in 295 plate appearances. Has mid-board, 15 home run type power. Good stolen base upside. Luke Raley at 28-25, also a good source of mid-board type power and stolen bases. Not so much in the 200 plate appearances this year. That's been a pretty bad season, but still a 10.5% barrel rate. Last year he hit 22 home runs, stole 11 bases. That's a good season. And then the bottom spot, J.P. Crawford. Excellent source of on base to bring back around and start the whole thing over again. 353 on base, even in a major dip in the second half this year. For a while this season, he was looking like the guy from 2 years ago who got on at a 380 clip. So he dipped, he lost his job, but he's essentially the secondary leadoff hitter from down here, the second, third, fourth times through this lineup. Mariners bats, Luis Castillo, or Luis Castillo, Mariners bats. Probably actually Castillo on DK, Mariners bats, Castillo on FanDuel, but he looks good on both. And then I'd say Angels bats over Kikuchi. Kikuchi's there if you really want to gamble. But that's really what he is a gamble rather than a sharp play. Then we close things out with Dodgers-Giants again. Don saying, if I might ask, what 2 pitchers would you use for GPP? I didn't mean to clear my throat like I was going to make a pronouncement there. I was going to say, Don, if you're going to be here for a moment, let me address that when we bounce back to the pitcher board after this game. Yoshi Yamamoto would be on that short list, though. 10,000, 10.6 looks pretty stellar. One of the top projected pitchers on the slate against an entirely gettable Giants lineup that does have some strikeout through it. That 22% bolstered a little bit by that 11, by that 15. Everybody else kind of in the mid-20s. So definitely targetable spot for Yamamoto. As mentioned earlier in the show, he has been pitching deep into ball games lately. 8 2/3. Almost no-hit the Orioles the other day. Then gave up a home run. 10 strikeout day. That was his second 10 strikeout game in a row. The first one came against the Diamondbacks over 7 innings. 6 innings the game before that, 6 strikeouts, 7 innings, 6 strikeouts against Colorado at Coors Field the start before that. Had a bumpy one, 4 2/3 against the Angels, gave up a home run and 6 earned runs, 6 strikeouts and walked 5 that day. That was back on August 11th. Since then, he's been blazing a trail through the major leagues. Love the option. Think he's fairly priced as compares to Skubal up at the top of the board. Verlander, different type of story. 6,600 seems pretty cheap to me. Found some form lately. No runs in each of his last 2. He's thrown 11 shutout innings while allowing just 6 hits, striking out 16 and walking 4 against the Cardinals and the Orioles his last 2 times out. He's got the Dodgers in town. It's a little bit of a different animal than those 2 teams. Start before those 2, though. He faced the Cubs, pretty similar. 6 innings, faced 27 Cubs. 7 hits, but only 2 earned runs. Struck out 5, walked 2. That's okay for 6,600 if you get that. And he's got upside beyond. For the season, 25 starts, 21.4% Ks, 7.7% walks, still inducing an 11% swinging strike rate. That's where the quality can come from. Still well above average via Stuff Plus. 4.09 ERA, a 4.44 xFIP. All right, some bumps there. Good for premium contact and power, despite giving up a fly ball trajectory at a 17.8 degree average launch. That could feed the power of a Shohei Ohtani, who can find his own exit velocity, a Will Smith, a Max Muncy, sure. This is not Verlander as we once knew him, but it is a quality pitcher at 66. Even at 82 on FanDuel, there's loose playability there. Shot at 6 decent innings. Certainly not going to look to protect him. Dodgers and Giants lineups are not in yet. Definitely can play some Dodgers going this way. I question the playability of the Giants going that way. Yamamoto's been really good. 2.72 ERA, a 3.07 xFIP. Just a 2.28% home run rate, doesn't really allow many barrels, keeps the ball down to a 7.7 degree average launch angle while inducing swinging strikes, finding strikeouts. I just don't like the Giants side of this equation. But the 4.44 implied total for the Dodgers, 14 plus in the home run model for Ohtani, who is Shohei Ohtani last I checked, 48 home runs, 18 stolen bases, a 329 ISO. Mookie Betts continues to round into form, 18 home runs, 260, 328, 409, a 105 WRC plus now. All of a sudden, over the last month or so, Mookie is back and back in a big way. Sub 10% strikeout, sub 10% walk, or nearly 10% walk. Got to say that the right way. 49-36 for Freddie's entirely fair. 20 home runs. Excellent slash line again this season. Will Smith, one of the best catcher bats in baseball. You pay full price for it, but that's worth doing. 17 home runs, 296, 404, 497 season. Max Muncy back in the lineup. Major source of lefty power. 13.8% barrels, 53% hard hits, 20% strikeouts, 17% walks this year. 17 homers in 355 chances. A 227 ISO. Teoscar has dipped a little bit for quality, but still a 213 ISO, 24 home runs, a 101 WRC plus, very solid 333 xWOBA, a lot of premium contact. Michael Conforto, still a good source of premium contact for a cheap price if you need it, but it's resulted in just 10 home runs, a 132 ISO, sub Mendoza, sub 300 on base. He has not been good. Andy Pages has been good. 273, 315, 458, a 113 WRC plus, no-brainer option down lineup. And then Tommy Edman, if he's back in the lineup, cheap option. Those 12 home runs came in an awful hurry at the very beginning of the season. Hasn't done a lot since, but a capable guy over multiple seasons. Low strikeout, medium walk rate. So just put the ball in play for me. Maybe something interesting happens. Top of the Giants, again, against a pitcher that's really good at finding strikeouts, really good at limiting power. I don't love it, but Elliot Ramos would continue to at least be a consideration. 17 home runs, a 137 ISO is kind of concerning. Underwhelming 321 xWOBA, 110 WRC plus is still well above average, but a lot of that quality came earlier in the year. We've taken a pretty big dip. Still good for the season numbers overall, though. Rafi Devers at 53, 39, 31 home runs at 227 ISO. No-brainer. You absolutely play Rafi Devers if you're going to this team today. Willie Adames, same thing. 28 home runs at 201 ISO, a 110 WRC plus. What a saved from the depths kind of a season. Still real cheap on DraftKings at 43. FanDuel's got it right at 37. Dom Smith, just a contact hitter, not really that interesting. Cheap filler at first base, 286, 335, 419. Those are good numbers, a 112 WRC plus. Just doesn't do anything overly special. Kind of just buried in the heart of the lineup there. Matt Chapman, something was going on with Chapman, right? Wasn't he? I know I saw something. Oh, he won his appeal. Okay. So Chapman should be in the lineup. 39, 33, 21 home runs, a 215 ISO. Definitely a good option and probably a top priority option behind Rafi Devers and Willie Adames if you're going to this team today, but you don't really want to go to this team today. Young-Hoo Lee, line drive-oriented hitter. Maybe we could get away with some shares of him if we're padding out full stacks of Giants, but really not a top priority guy. The reason he'd be in some consideration is just that line drive quality against a pitcher who limits launch angle. So you do want guys who are, somewhat successful and looking to do that. Casey Schmidt is a mixer, so is Patty Bailey. Drew Gilbert is kind of interesting down lineup. 3 home runs in 69 plate appearances, a 231 ISO. But again, we're probably not home run hunting against this pitcher. Yoshi, Dodgers bats, Verlander, and Giants bats pretty low end. And that is every single game on this slate. So to go back to that, who would you pair at pitcher? I think a really easy pairing, and it might be super popular, would just be 1-2 right there. I think that's so straightforward. I don't think there's anything wrong, though, if you want to mix up from what probably will be a very, very popular combination, and you want to get out there a little bit more on a limb and save some money. How that? Obviously, you've got guys in the 7s in between those guys. You could easily go to Kikuchi on the other side of that game and gamble, or in the Seattle game rather, and gamble similarly to how you'd be gambling with JT Ginn. But I think there's more to like about Ginn at that cheap price. Tanner Bybee would be an excellent consideration at $7,000, but much like Castillo, I would expect he's going to be pretty popular. That might be your best one, though, considering the extra $500 in savings. That combination, Bybee hasn't been good, but neither is Castillo, really. You've got a lot to work with today, though. Just going down through the mid and the very low price guys, pretty rare that we see a $5,700 guy with a strikeout rate like what JT Ginn can find spiking up to this kind of a level on the projections board. There's playability on guys like Priester, but if I'm going to a just playable guy, I'd rather go to a maybe slightly less playable, slightly less high quality option and take a major discount on salary. Like Pablo falls into that bucket. Chris Bassett at 82 falls into that bucket. I'd say Jonah Tong, despite his talent in his third start, with the way the last one went, probably in that bucket as well at 79. DeGrom looks terrific at 95, offset a little bit from the top guys in price. Love Yoshi at those prices, especially that DK discount of $200. It's only a $400 discount on FanDuel. Give me Scooble every time against the Marlins, or most of the time. Heel at the DraftKings price, sure, but only as a dart. Same thing with Sandy at 6,000, sure, but only really as a value dart. You can have a few shares of each of those depending on how many lineups you're building, though. Very, very cheap prices for capable pitchers. Tough matchups, but winnable ones. 88 and 85 on FanDuel do not work nearly as well. Same thing with 10-4 for Trevor Rogers against that low strikeout, high-quality Blue Jays lineup. I just don't love it. 87 on DraftKings, I don't love that either, but it's way more playable. Singer against the Athletics feels like a pretty hard no, but that's a fair enough DraftKings price. Fott is also in that conversation, just like JT Ginn, Sandy Alcantara, Luis Heel, of a guy who can break off good starts from time to time, pushing a lot of danger in the other direction. The Minnesota's pulling one of the better totals on the board. He's been mostly bad through the season with a few bright spots, but we've seen the talent. It's very real. 6,200 is super cheap. Giolito, I don't love against the Yankees. Martin Perez, I don't love under any circumstances. And then we get to a totally playable JP Sears against the Rockies. Highest strikeout, worst lineup in baseball. There's a lot of quality there. No trust, no faith, no confidence, but upside. Verlander against the Dodgers at 66. Same deal. No real faith. A lot of track record. Very cheap. Waldrop feels like a no at those prices. Palante, again, if you need it, at least reasonable expectation of 5-6 innings of keeping the ball in the yard. But that Brewers team doesn't really need to hit home runs to win, though. That's the problem. Yeah, this is one of the more probably Starsy Scrubsy pitching slates, but with a super usable, fairly priced middle as well. Challenging to say what is the absolute best combination. Let's see what before we end. It is 6:12. Yep. Castillo Scooble. Massive ownership. Top two owned pitchers. Essentially, each guy doubles the next highest guy on the in these projections. But you immediately get cheap and different if you just go to one of the other guys we just talked about. You're approaching like the 10% owned range just by going to Ginn, Sears, Bybee is sub 10, Kikuchi sub 10, Priester, handful. Alcantara's drawn a little sliver of popularity, just a little bit more than JT Ginn, but same deal. All of the cheap pitchers that we've talked about, both from the like cheap middle, like Chris Bassett, and the bargain bin guys, other than Luis Castillo, are all owned in just barely into the double digits, if that. So the correct answer to your question is Tarek Skubal with anyone other than Luis Castillo. Although, if you're just building one lineup and you just want the straight path toward the most likely combination to succeed, and then we'll get different win it with bats, which is a perfectly viable approach to building one lineup, it would be Skubal and Castillo. Depends on what you're doing, what your portfolio looks like. But yeah, if you make any other decision for your cheap pitcher with then Castillo, you immediately get away from a big chunk of ownership. And then obviously, if you're just going like, I'll just play, in that case, I'll play Yamamoto Bibee. Or honestly, even if you did Yamamoto Castillo, would be essentially the same as doing Skubal and one of the other guys and would save money, given the way those are. Like Skubal, Yamamoto is at the same ownership levels, mid-teens, as all those other guys. So you're just taking the 30% guy, in your cheap slot and the lower owned guy in your ace slot and saving a little bit of money. $2,000 on DraftKings, not an insignificant amount of money, actually. So this is also viable. I hope that, I know I said a lot right then, but I hope that kind of addressed your question, Don, as we were doing the breakdown there. So like my full-on answer, if we take ownership and that doesn't really matter, we're just throwing that out the window, Skubal Castillo, straightforward. If we need to consider the ownership, which we do, probably Skubal Bibee. Save that money, take it all the way down to the bottom. But Skubal Bassett, considering how low owned he is, plays. A lot of risk on some of these other guys. Like JT Ginn, much as I want to get to that cheap price, and if that buys you the upgrades that it would, it's worth considering the difference there. So if I had to rank those SP2s, I'd say probably Bibee, Ginn, Bassett, as far as just that group that I just talked about from like halfway up. There's a lot of playability through all those guys. Hopefully that doesn't come across as fence sitting so much as trying to figure out the way to navigate that. But with that in mind, guys, let me say goodnight. Let me say thank you very much. 6:15 on your clock. I'll get the lineups that are confirmed updated on the site. We've got most of them in by now. Going to build my lineups, put them in, monitor everything going up to lock. I'll keep an eye on anything after lock if anybody scratches or anything like that, Joe would tell. But otherwise, I'm going to be working on football content basically until the sun rises. We'll be writing. We'll be going through game by game for the game notes. So please, if you subscribe to the website, please go read that article when you see it post. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears go into that thing. We'll be back tomorrow during the afternoon. Keep an eye out somewhere between noon and 2 as a start time for a football main slate show. That is going to happen this week. We will make sure to, even if I have to put aside the article and then work through tomorrow night as well. We'll get it done. So we'll be here to talk about that tomorrow. But for now, good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Follow the @rotoscouts Twitter handle and share those results when you do, or share them in the Discord, which is linked down in the description below, along with a lot of other stuff. Go get them, gang. We'll see you tomorrow.